Pay attention, bitch.
Hey, it's Cody Lane. Simple man, you spell it how I spell it from now. You understand me? I-40 East. Fast money, fast cars, and fast women. Cody Lane, new to the game, but I'm already winning. Say, wanna know the difference between me and all of them? Is everything you hear me talk about, I've really lived. Okay, let's go. I'm about to hit the road. 20,000 for a show. Oh, you ain't know. I might just change up the flow. Turn a housewife to a hoe. I'm about to blow. Fuses lit. It's been a minute. Let's get it. Backstage signing hella titties. And all these bitches wanting pictures with me. Low key, thirsty for my children. Before I go, I gotta say, we ain't here for playing games. But I promise, the one all of y'all are is about to fucking change. The truth is, at the end of the day, fake just can't sustain. Counterfeit sons of bitches, they don't get a proper grave. What do you say? Let's call spade a spade. I'm who they wish they could be. Outlaw DNA. Really seen the struggle. Really dove in the game. Aside from God above, ain't never been afraid. Wake up every day and wish a motherfucker won. Cause I swear on everything I love that I ain't the one. What do you say? Let's call spade a spade. I'm who they wish they could be. Outlaw DNA.
Went from freestyling up in titty bars and pool halls to the big city call. I threw my shit inside of U-Haul. Back then there wasn't YouTube views for you to move off. You had to be in spots, felt like you get your hair blew off. If you made the wrong moves or wore the wrong colors. We had a small crew though, and we was all brothers. And if you snuck one of us, you getting all of us. We caused ruckus, it was different and we fought for it. All y'all busters, bunch of keyboard, emo, weak boy decoys. I'd rather have my life destroyed than get a fucking reward I ain't earned. I ain't step up and take, learn lessons from my mistakes. I fuck with you because the rest of y'all fake. It's I-40.
What do you say? Let's go spade a spade. I'm who they wish they could be. Outlaw DNA. Really seen the struggle. Really dove in the game. Aside from God above, ain't never been afraid. Wake up every day and wish a motherfucker won.
If you're a club level member on Ko-fi, I'm dropping the link there now.
What do you say? Let's go spade a spade. I'm who they wish they could be. Outlaw DNA.
I needed this song to be like one verse longer. Published now. All right. If somebody would drop it in the Discord as well for me, I appreciate it. Life just happens. Life keeps happening. Welcome. Got an outrageous topic tonight. If anybody got curious and like, what's the title talking about, and looked into it, it's outrageous. I actually, I called and he didn't answer. Judge Joe Brown earlier today because I thought about it after I scheduled this, set this up. I would really love to get his take on this topic. So, Judge, if you watch this, hit me back up and we will do another one. Joe Biden got a lot of attention for pardoning his son. I never addressed it because I don't really care about it. I'm not surprised by it. And I honestly don't even think it's the wrong thing to do. I think as a father, it's the morally right move. I think as citizens, we have the right, maybe even the duty to be outraged by it. But I think as far as him being in that moment and having that decision to make, I think that you have to prioritize your family over your career. Well, not that his career's over anyways, but yeah, I think that pardoning your son on the way out the door sort of sacrifices your own legacy for your family. And I have no actual qualms with him doing that. But this one, I do have a qualm with. So, as well as Hunter, that got all the attention. Let me pull up an article here so that I make sure that I am giving you accurate information and not memories, because memory sucks. That's why I'm not a Mandela effect person. Joe Biden did the most pardons. I'm sorry, the most clemency, because he also gave a lot of people reduced sentences. The most forgiveness of criminal punishment of anybody in modern history. And let's see. On December 12th, he pardoned. Here it is, 6 days ago. He gave full pardons to 39 people convicted of nonviolent crimes, and he gave clemency, which a pardon wipes out the record. It's as if it never happened, and it effectively goes away entirely. Clemency, you're still on the book, you still have the conviction, but they reduce your sentence. Like, all right, you're still guilty of it, but we're done punishing you. You don't have to serve out your sentence. One of the things that Joe Biden did was commute nearly 1,500 sentences, and he did that in a categorical way. People who were released from prison and placed on home confinement during the CV pandemic, anybody who had been moved to house arrest during CV for that reason, if they were still out on house arrest and had not been returned to prison, then they were pardoned. It was categorical. It was uniform. It's completely irresponsible and asinine of a way to approach pardons and clemency at all. So about 1,500 people got reduced sentences. I mean, it doesn't make sense at all to me. It makes actually the opposite of sense. This is a group of people whose the thing that they have in common, the determining factor was part of their sentence spent at home instead of prison. That's already an upgrade. One of them was the guy in the left side of the thumbnail. The Cash for Kids scandal judge, one of them. Michael Conahan, a former judge involved in a notorious Kids for Cash scandal in Pennsylvania, was among one of the 1,500 people granted clemency. The scheme, one of the worst corruption scandals in U.S. juvenile history, came to light in 2008 and 2009. Conahan and fellow Judge Mark Ciavarella were accused of receiving cash kickbacks in exchange for helping to construct 2 for-profit juvenile detention facilities in Luzerne County and sentencing 2,500 young people to those facilities to keep them full. They received more than $2.8 million. So what these guys did is they were instrumentally involved in shutting down what had been a county, I think it was county-run facility, a juvenile facility. They shut down the existing one, or got it shut down by finding issue with it. Then its replacement was a private facility that outsourced child detention services to the county. This private company paid these 2 guys kickbacks. Now that that by itself would be dirty as fuck. But what's even dirtier is that these two guys oversaw a whole bunch of juvenile cases where they were making sure that these private juvenile facilities stayed stocked. To maximize the payout, they often gave kids the harshest possible sentence. Young people who were first-time offenders and probably should have received a warning or community service would end up locked up. Some were younger than 13. What the judges did caused tremendous harm to thousands of young people and their families. One young man died by suicide. I think it was 3 days after he'd been sent to this facility, if I recall. 17-year-old, he shot himself. Many youths became depressed and dropped out of high school. They were caught only because one distraught family contacted the Juvenile Law Center, a nonprofit legal aid group in Philadelphia. In an early example of data sleuthing, the center compared the numbers with those of 66 other counties in Pennsylvania and realized something was very wrong was occurring in Luzerne County. Half of these youngsters had no legal representation, and 60% were removed from their homes. That's how the judges got away with it for so long. There was literally no one watching. Conahan was sentenced to 17 and a half years for racketeering conspiracy, and Cia Varela to 28 years for racketeering, money laundering, and conspiracy to defraud the U.S., among other crimes. The reason that the other guy got longer, I believe, is that he was more egregious with it. He was known for his zero tolerance on youth crime policies, and in the wake of Columbine, this is my understanding, is that in the wake of Columbine, he sort of used that momentum to justify, zero strike situations for juveniles to try to rein in out of control, these youth. What they were really doing is using their authority in the legal system to kidnap kids from their families and sell them into slavery. So, 17 and a half years and 28 years respectively for stealing and selling almost 3,000 kids over a decade. Seems inadequate on its own. But anyways, this dude, this judge who was doing 17 and a half years, he's one of the guys, he got sent home during the coup. He's older is the explanation. And so for the last, what year is it? For the last 5 years, he's been doing house arrest instead of his prison sentence. And now he is one of the 1,500 people who is getting the rest of his sentence just wiped away. Who knows what other, stuff is in there. It'd be really interesting to have somebody go through that who had time and look up these people and figure out what all sort of I'm sure there's some other egregious shit in there, but this one caught my attention for sure. It encapsulates everything I fucking hate the most. As a dad, as somebody who's been fucked by the criminal justice system as well, not like this. And I was actually guilty of doing the thing that is illegal, but I don't think should be. I got strong feelings about all this shit, but yeah, I don't really believe in the death penalty, but I do believe in slow torture death for people like this. I see Cajun Sasquatch is backstage. I do not see I don't know if he's there. Sorry for all the sniffing and the out of breath. I was outside trying to take care of some last minute unexpected things before I came rushing in here. And it's getting cold out. So did you guys know about this? And what do you think? There's the link.
This man should be strung up, drawn, quartered, shot, hanged, stabbed, thrown off of a high place, and then rolled down a snowy hill and left on display for people to see. If he lives through that, I've got no problem with him walking away from it.
I kind of hope he does live after that so that we can watch him walk away.
What was the
try
movie? Yeah, Princess Bride. He wants to cut off his ears, his nose, his eyes. No, cut out. He was going to cut out his eyes, his nose, his tongue, both arms, both legs, and leave his pristine ears so that he can hear the screams of children.
That's savage.
Right? That's the kind of thing. See, kids need protecting. There's a lot of people out there, especially in certain schools of thought, that believe that children are merely little tiny people and should be granted all of the freedoms and decision making that people have. But they are not little tiny people. They are children. They do not have the experience to make educated decisions on anything. It's such a trope that the society of virtually every nation on earth has decided there is a level of enfranchisement that is achieved at a certain age. It's different in different places, but for the most part, everyone agrees children shouldn't make decisions.
Yeah. I mean, it's an abuse of power on every level. Like this is multi-layered fucked up, right? Because the courts are supposed to, be an oversight mechanism on society. And it just trickles all the way down to basically the highest institution with teeth in authority is attacking the very bottom rung, the most defenseless ones. I really would, maybe I don't wish, I'm sure it would be nothing but an exercise in just like directionless rage, but I would like to hear some of the sentencings of these judges, because something that has always bothered me about courts is how important remorse is. When I hear courts talk about remorse, all I hear them saying is that like it's really important that you internalize that you are the problem, right? And so I'm just curious how much of that sort of gaslighting and brainwashing was involved. I'm sure tons of it.
Well, I mean, the main issue we have here, in my opinion, not beyond, the blatant open sales of children, right? The harsher sentences for longer sentences for larger payouts. This is all horrible. But from what you were saying, they had the previous facility that was public shut down so that they could put them in a privately funded institution specifically for the kickbacks.
Yes. And then they said, and I remember hearing about this, but not really getting into it. The whole handling of juvenile cases was, I mean, so recklessly abusive that I'm surprised that these judges were stupid enough to be so overt. Pennsylvania, by the way, side note, remains the of all 50 states, the one with the highest percentage of juvenile juvenile whatever inmates it housed in private prison facilities.
Okay, so that's another thing. One of the ways they were able to get away with this for so long is the fact that all juvenile records are typically sealed. And so even if they did have a lawyer or did have any kind of proceedings take place, it was all sealed immediately afterwards anyway. And so no one could really check on what happened during the case.
Well, I'm just talking about the circumstantial situation, right? Like you don't need to be able to look into a case to look at the numbers going on here and recognize that this is fucked off. But yeah, many of them didn't have. And I this comment that I just pulled up, Red 40s here, says if the parents were present, this probably wouldn't happen. I think Red 40 is basically a hater, and so I'm just going to treat that comment as intentionally provocative. But
sure.
What do you think about that? It's probably worth addressing anyways, because there are people who are not just bad faith who will probably have that same thought.
But we don't have the records to make that determination. Although on its surface, I would tend to agree with him that probably single parent homes were bulldozed a little easier than 2-parent homes.
Sure, they're more defenseless. They actually need more help from the legal system, or you'd expect them to be entitled to almost more support from the legal system than otherwise, right? Maybe not. Maybe no. You know what? Upon further thought, I disagree with that. But sure. Then that's everything is power. Everything is power. It's all and the race differences you see in prisons, the sex differences, all this shit. In my 100% opinion, doesn't have anything to do with the features at all. It has everything to do with the capacity of those communities or those individuals within those communities to defend themselves. And the poorer you are, the less family support. I mean, that is something that, whatever. So yeah, obviously the less
there is a break off point though. If you've got enough money, you can't really pay for things to go away, but if it's punishable by fine, that means it's legal for a price. And so if you know the fine before you do it, just pay it.
if you haven't money, to the extent that money is power, if you have enough money, you're not going to find yourself in these situations, not because you could buy your way out of it if you were, but because nobody in enforcement wants to take the personal risk of going after you.
Yeah, a wealthy individual, a wealthy, eccentric individual taking offense at something you did to their children. That is some Karen shit fixing to happen right there.
I was under investigation for 3.5 years, but I didn't get raided until 1 month after I quit my job as a banker. Right. So like these status things are important, but I would assume that that's a big reason why these judges got away with it for so long. Who wants to risk that, right?
Yeah.
What parent in the system, what employee of the judicial, whatever, nobody's going to want to attack a judge except for somebody who is so far out of his jurisdiction that they're not really touchable.
Right.
And the other thing that's worth pointing out about this is this sort of stuff, this paradigm in which people's kids are used as and I don't know the word I'm looking for, are not treated as people to be defended, but instead are just exploited and used as bargaining chips by the courts. It happens all the time. It happens in any time that you can have that happen in a criminal case. It does. The immediate thing they do is when you get charged, they take away the kids and they put in protection orders. The courts do it. It's automatic, and it's absolutely a bargaining chip. When I got raided, my 5-year-old daughter there's a no contact order put in place because she was a witness. Now, somebody, when they raided me, they didn't know that there were any kids there. By the time I got my charge and my paperwork, somebody had gone to the intentional effort to find out who my daughter was, what her name was, and then to include her as a witness to have no contact with. Nobody in that police force or in the prosecutor's office at all thought that my 5-year-old daughter was privy to the drugs that were locked up in a safe in my bedroom. They did. It was also one of the first bargaining chips that they handed over. Like, okay, well, we'll take her off the witness list. Yeah, she should have never been on there in the first place. But y'all motherfuckers kidnap kids so that you make your cases easier. What do you think, Lori Schick?
Hey, everybody. I'm so glad you're covering this topic. I was horrified by this Clemency. Shocked. I've known about this case since it happened. Now I do juvenile advocacy and law. And so this is like a big case in my world and has been for a long time. And so to find out this fucker was Clemency was like, what the hell? And I don't know. I heard yesterday on some newscast that Biden's team is just like, we don't know. Like we don't know why.
We didn't know he was in there. That was their excuse.
Yeah. The only thing that makes sense is that Biden's from Scranton. And I guess this motherfucker's from Scranton, PA. And so they have like that hometown thing. And so maybe like, I don't think Biden has any idea that he's even doing pardons at this point. But this is a bad one.
I agree. I don't think he has any clue what's going on.
No, and I think there's somebody in there that's doing political favors, or one of his like somebody on his inside track, like maybe went to law school with that judge and like put him on the list. Like it's just those backdoor. I mean, those old judges are horrible people. Some of them are horrible.
They're
And
awful.
as you know, you've been
Yes.
through it. Yeah.
Yes.
So, but yeah, that's all. So I'm glad you're covering this, but it just goes to like probably one of the worst pardons ever.
This, yeah, it's so egregious it doesn't really even seem real. And like this isn't real life. Real life is weird, but this shit's. But do you know? Has anybody rummaged around the rest of the 1,499 names?
Yeah, I mean, I have a little bit. I don't know if
And
1,400, but he's pardoned. So who's on this list? So yeah, the Cash for Kids was the shocker, but two fraudsters, like financial criminals, I think out of Chicago, which is kind of normal. Like Bill Clinton pardoned the same types.
mhm.
You know, a lot, actually, quite a few nonviolent offenders. I think they put a bunch of like, you know, people that were in federal prison for pot. Like a lot of those.
He did that 2 or
Pardons.
3 years ago, though.
Yeah, but I think there's a few more on this most current. Yeah, but
I read through all of the pardons, and all of them were they didn't. Occasionally, they would say nonviolent drug offense, but basically, they all just said nonviolent. And it sounds like it looked to me like he was marching through just some sort of token, like look at this model inmate who loves puppies and God. But I'm trying to figure out my own theory for why the fuck would anybody even approach this way? Are they trying to hide people in here and then have a reason not to answer it? Like, what's really going on here? Because there's no part of this, like, no part of, well, they were out on the Coof thing holds any water logically. It just doesn't work.
And these judges are so gross. Like apparently on this one, they were getting money in shoe boxes. The two judges owned a condo in Florida that they were funding money through. So they really knew what they were doing. And to just sell out kids like this, and like you had said earlier, some of these kids were going into court with no lawyers. And the thing is, like, parents probably were in court with them, but then they have like no power. You know, parents, it sucks. Like when you're a juvenile attorney, the kid's your client. And so the parent can't even really do anything. They have no say, and they aren't even privy often to the case because you know, attorney-client privilege and whatnot.
I would assume that I mean, I would hope that the people representing the minors are better than the public defenders that represent adults. Better, and I mean that by like well intentioned, right? Public defenders will tell you, like, I'm not defending you. I'll pass you the paperwork and you can sign it.
Yeah, it definitely depends on the state. In my experience, like the juvenile defenders, and I have worked in the juvenile defender office as an educational advocate lawyer. That's really my jam, is the educational rights of kids and where that crosses with their criminal rights, right?
Mm-hmm.
But like some states have specific like juvenile defender units, and some states there's like 5 people that deal with the whole state, like Louisiana. There's just not that many. But like a place like Baltimore, you have Louisiana's worse. But then like Baltimore, you have like a really specialized unit that's like really good. And California, of course, is great public defenders all over, but they just don't always have the time. Just like with the adults, they don't always have the time to put into the cases. And then sometimes it is a dumping ground for like bad lawyers. Like sometimes they're bad, like they're put to pasture in the juvenile unit, you know? So it's like kind of like teaching, I guess, like education.
I found out a couple years ago that, and I live in Kansas, and in Kansas, the family preservation function, and I had to do some, like, you know, this isn't told anybody, I had to do some research. Family preservation is done by a private company that the courts outsource this function to. And it's the same company that they outsource adoptive services to for kids who have been permanently removed. So you have the biggest conflict of interest on earth. It's unbelievable. But the courts who question parents, you know, capacity, are having family preservation, the preservation attempts done by the same people that get paid to sell. It still blows my mind.
Yeah, that's like a whole racket in the Native American youth child community, like putting Native kids out to adopt out of,
Mm,
into Christian family. It's a big, you would not believe how much money the adoption industry is. Maybe you do know, but the
I
adoption,
absolutely do.
do you
It's an
know?
absolute racket. It's a total racket. I can't remember the numbers themselves, but it is freaking absurd.
Adoption lawyers can make up to $100,000 per adoption. Yeah. And
and
hi, Sasquatch.
is that, do you know, so
Hello.
is that conflict of interest common across, do you know, across the country, or is that?
I mean, sure. And I guess it depends, right? It's always the lawyer answer. But the more things are privatized, the more less oversight, the more it's about the profit, you
But I
know?
mean, to put it in this, because these are the adoption
Well,
companies' business interests, of course, need kids to adopt out. So they're actually are incentivized to want the families to break up. Family
yeah.
preservation is supposed to want the opposite thing. But if you have the same company doing both, you just put the wolf in charge of the hen house.
Yeah. But isn't it like, do you guys think it's the same principle as a private prison? Like private prisons want to
Yeah,
keep you there because they
yeah,
need inmates, right?
it's
And
the
it's like,
exact same principle.
yeah, when I used to say like the prison guards union should not be a union. They like the prison guard union always pushed for like really strong sentencing, like 25 to life, because it's like job security for them. And it's like the equivalent of a nurse like pushing for everybody to have typhus.
And I
It's
don't
just
think
like,
that I don't think that you should be allowed to keep people incarcerated longer for infractions like tobacco policy infractions. I don't think
right.
you should be allowed to have post-release conditions for people who have served out their complete sentence. And maybe if they're getting a mitigated, reduced sentence, that's reasonable. But if you've done your time, how on earth can you be required then to check in with your PO and take a piss in a cup the next day? You're done.
Or how about like when I don't know where you are or if you had to deal with this, but like having to pay to be on probation. Like, well, we'll let you out if you pay $30 a day. There was a mom in Oakland who was fined for the time her kid was locked up. Like they charged the parents, her kid died, and they sent her to collections for the money, like thousands of dollars, because for the money that her kid, I guess, incurred on the state when they was locked up. Like, we're gonna lock your kid up, we're gonna charge your parents, and then if you die, we're gonna sue your parents for the money.
Right. It's I mean the state so jails, I assume it was a jail for the kid. Not maybe it was a prison, but anyways, county jails hold inmates before they're sentenced to prison, and they get reimbursed by the state a
Mhm.
certain amount per inmate per night, right? So every night that an inmate is in jail, you get paid by the state. You get, if you understand how government works, they incurred expenses just means they can budget more next year. So you get more money next year, you get paid this year. And if you get to double dip at the parents, the conflict of interest embedded in the system is it's fucking crazy.
Yeah, and people are like, lock them up. They're trash, right? We don't care.
People, yeah. And yeah, those sort of people, some of them are ignorant, to no fault of their own, because it is, it's not like inmates are given much airtime to say their side of the story. You just see their mugshot paraded out and the charges, and then it's treated as if they're already guilty. But I don't remember where I was going to land that actually.
Just double dipping, but they've never had a loved one
But
in
I'm
prison.
sorry. But I was about to put some blame on the general public who have the lock 'em up attitude, but know that they know something's up, right? Because it's obvious enough, and there's enough of this egregious shit going on that there's a lot of people who just don't really want to deal with it, and it's not their problem.
Yeah, and it's like if it keeps one of us safe, then it's fine. Yeah, it's such a racket. But I just wanted to pop up and comment on this particular topic because it's horrific and it just shows what a terrible president Joe Biden really, really was. And I mean, he's not even a president now. I guess that's another conversation.
Yeah, I don't.
Where is this
I have
guy?
no love for any of them.
This is a bad one.
For the record, this is not a recent problem. This kind of thing has been going on for the past 25 years all over the country. Every
You mean
small
the
town.
pardons or
No,
the sentencing?
specifically the cash for kids
Yeah,
situation, that type of thing.
yeah.
It's so freaking common because you really can't check up on the cases after the fact, short of literally breaking the law to find out their names, to go to their houses and ask their parents. And that is the only way to get information out. If the parents are not speaking out, nothing happens. And even if they do, there's a damn good chance that everybody just turns a deaf ear because your child's a convicted criminal.
And the parents are so goddamn like they're first of all they're confused because they don't know what the fuck's going on in the courts. I've witnessed enough of that. I've watched judges intentionally blitz stuff through, knowing that the parents in the audience did not understand what was happening. And yeah, they take advantage of people's ignorance and fear. If you're a lot of parents just try to cooperate to get their kids back, right? That's all you give a fuck about as a parent. And that is abused to no end.
Yeah, where you are, Sasquatch in Georgia, it's a bad place for kids to be locked up for sure.
Georgia's scary as fuck. Let's be real.
I wouldn't want to be. I've never visited a Georgia jail or prison, but you also have those immigration detention centers down there in the South. I don't know if you have any. I know you're in rural Georgia, but just expect more of that. Louisiana, Mississippi, and jails also rent their beds out and will be renting their beds out to ICE.
One of our
that.
nearby prisons it doubles as a ICE detention center.
Yeah, because they rent the beds, right?
The county next to us, its primary employer are 3 different prisons. So they're huge capacity is what I'm getting at.
Yeah. 3 prisons. Yeah. So that's thousands and thousands and thousands upon thousands of jobs because you've got guards, cooks, cleaners, maintenance.
I'm half a mile away from Leavenworth County.
Oh, you are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a big one. That's a famous one.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, in my world, we've been pushing for the pardon and clemency for Leonard Peltier.
I know
the Native American bro. He was in Leavenworth. Actually, I think there's been some real famous guys in Leavenworth. That's
that's where the feds dump all like their go away forever. But
it's old. It's really old.
So if James Bond is real and we caught him, he's in Leavenworth.
Right. Like that is for high profile guys. So old Joe, what is considered juvenile versus adult? That's a good question. So I can answer that and then I'm going to hop off. A juvenile versus adult, 18 is really what puts you into adult court. If you commit a crime the day after your 18th birthday, you're an adult. But most states now will charge a juvenile for many crimes as young, even as 13, 14, usually, definitely 16, right? So you'll have some really violent criminals, folks, who will like put guns in the hands of the 13-year-old that they'll roll with the group of older boys so that when they all get caught, the 13-year-old has the gun and he might get in some trouble, but he's not going to get in the trouble that, the 16-year-old would get in trouble for. Like I've been right now, the only juvenile case I'm working on is she's 18 now, but she was 16, this little girl, she was 16 years old and she got in a fight and she pulled out a knife and she stabbed the girl. Like she just went for it like a crazy kid. And she's nicked this other girl's aorta and like put her in the hospital for a month. So they charged her attempted murder. So she was looking at 40 years as a 16-year-old. And it was just like a knife fight and kind of a bad, I guess a good stab and I guess good aim, bad aim, depending on how you look at it. But because of her age, she was able to be charged with attempted murder. So it just really depends. But yeah, 13. So old Joe, like North Carolina is like that young. The southern states are bad when it comes to charging kids.
What is the incentive to charge kids as adults? Is it more feathers in the prosecutor's cap?
Well, this is something I know a lot about. They go into adult court, so they lose. It's a completely different court system. So they're like in the same system that like any adult is in, the kids in. So they might like not be in the adult prison until they're 18, Most jails and prisons now, though, have a unit for what they call true juveniles. So there'll be a pod or a section of every single adult jail for the kids. And they have to be sight sound separated, right? Because of PREA, which is the Prison Rape Elimination Act. The children cannot be in the sight or sound of the adults unless they're in a class. So if there's an educational program, sure. But yeah,
They actually threw a 16-year-old into our adult general population for about 12 hours before they realized what had happened. They also forgot to take his cell phone from him. So they really were fucking up that day. But
so what was the kid like? Was he like, was he scared? Was he happy? Was he like, hey guys, use my phone?
No, he was, I think he was scared. He was scared, of course. He was quiet and submissive. And he basically just got relieved of his phone immediately. And all the adults who hadn't touched a phone in a minute, like, drained the battery and then tossed it back to him.
That's hilarious. Yeah, I mean, kids are, I don't know, I like working with kids, but yeah, when they're charged as adults, they it's adult crime, adult time, so they'll do 25 to life, and especially in a state like California where they have those gang enhanced sentences, those kids get put away for a long time. They don't have access to their parents. They can get strikes on their record. And then they lose in my world, like they lose their educational services. So that's a big deal. That's really what I end up talking a lot about.
Is that a legally strong attack point, I suppose, or defense?
You mean the educational services?
Right. The educational right of the students, is that as a good entry point for parents?
Yeah, I get it. I do a lot with that. So like you could literally, and like, I guess I do a lot with the educational rights piece. And now, because of Brian Stevenson, if you ever watched or read the book Just Mercy, he's like the big juvenile attorney. So in the past, like maybe 10, 15 years, there's been like 3 major cases that came to the Supreme Court that ended juvenile life without parole, that ended death penalty for juveniles, and it ended the death penalty for like mentally ill kids and mentally ill people in general. So like, or for intellectually disabled people. So those 3 cases that went to the Supreme Court have helped us like do better for kids. So I'll finish with this. Now you can get a kid into juvenile court. You can argue to put them in juvenile court if they've suffered trauma, if you can show that they would be rehabilitated from treatment, if they're amendable to treatment. And if you can show those things,
how
then
would you demonstrate that second part?
Through psychological evaluations. So we have like we have forensic psychologists interview the kids and then submit a report. And then they would like I would get that report. And then I do an educational background. I interview their teachers. I look at their records. I talk to the kids at length. And then I write a, report. And then we just put it all together, memos. And we say to the judge, look, and work with the public defenders, right, with their criminal lawyer. And we say, look, this child has experienced this trauma. She watched, like in this one case I was talking about with the girl, the stabbing, we showed like she'd watched her mom be abused. She used to sleep with a knife under her pillow because she was afraid of her stepfather. She had dealt with, all of this stuff. And we were able to show all of that. The forensic psychiatrist confirmed it, diagnosed the kid with like PTSD and depression. And then we were able to show, because of her grades at school, that she was, and her just general attitude, that like she is amendable to treatment. But then it's up to the system, right, to like give the kids the treatment, and that's the hard part, right?
Well,
It's
even
like
the assessment, I guess I don't trust that psychological assessments can't backfire. I mean, mine did. And not that much, but the drug and alcohol evaluator didn't like me.
Yeah, absolutely. If the kid doesn't open up, that's why I like, for me, it's like I just take these cases on pro bono basis now. So if I'm working with 1 or 2, I'm working very closely with these kids. So I can really work with them, make sure that I almost not coach them what to say, but I coach them to trust the people. And it's always like terrible. Like if you talk to these kids in the beginning of their process, they're quiet, they're mad, they're shitty, angry kids. And then usually if you can get them to trust just one trusted adult, they'll open up, and then you can kind of like look at their records, look at their interview, talk to them, and like put it together and not be fooled. Most kids, they're not going to fool you because they don't really know what you're looking for. so we can like get them to be like I'm like the nice lady, right? I'm like
Right.
the nice one going in, talking to them in juvenile hall, trying to get the good memories of their school and stuff out of them and stuff like that.
That's actually
So,
why she didn't like me, is because I did know what she needed to hear.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, those people, and sometimes like working with adults is just way different. I don't work with many adults at all. I did not like the adult side of the defender's office.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you joined.
Thank
A
you.
couple of quick things. First of all, is there if somebody is like just learning about this and they're like, oh, this is fucking terrible, I want to do something to help is there any organization that you think does good work in this shit that you would direct them to? And then also, is there anything that you think, questions that haven't been asked that you think should be asked?
I mean, I don't know about questions, but you talked about the Education Law Center out of Pennsylvania. They're the ones that really were there on the Kids for Cash thing. Education Law for Center is awesome. Then there's like, national organizations like the Campaign for the Fair Sentencing of Youth, Campaign for Youth Justice. Those are some good ones that will like keep you updated. But the biggest thing for everybody is to get involved at the state level. That's really where this matters, because criminal law is state-based and the juvenile laws are state-based. And most counties and jurisdictions have even more specialized programs for kids. So the best thing you can do on this one is like get involved at the local level with whatever, whoever is advocating for juvenile justice is what you're looking for in your county or state, and you'll find that organization. But every state has really awesome work being done on this. I've been in this for decades, and there's just good people. And now we have kids who have come through the system who are like working in the system. We have all that lived experience. So there's a lot of young people like in their late 20s who've been through it, who are like killing it.
But parents who need help in these organizations, like the courts aren't going to tell you about them. And actually, something, whenever this topic comes up, I always make sure to remind people that if DCF comes to your door, you don't have to talk to them. You shouldn't talk to them.
I'm not a fan.
Right.
No,
but they present themselves as if you do have to. So, yeah.
They're not law enforcement. Yeah.
You don't have to talk to law enforcement either.
You really don't.
They show up with law enforcement and try to use law enforcement's clout to make you do things you're not required to do.
I told my daughter she didn't have to, because the schools would take them apart and like start questioning them about their friends and stuff, just like petty shit. And I told her, I said, you don't have, this is a government employee. You don't have to tell them a damn thing at all, ever.
Mm-hmm.
And
tell her to call her dad and get him get picked up.
I'm actually tonight. I'm writing an email to a teacher because schools control infatuation is crazy, and I told her that if they give 3 minutes in between classes now to go to their locker, go to the bathroom, make it to the next class in high school. And
oh my God.
I told her, I said, if you ever need to go to the bathroom longer than that or whatever, or if a teacher ever denies you, things like this, like whatever. You just do whatever the fuck you want and let me deal with them, but you won't spend a minute in detention or anything. And she played that card the other day because a teacher said no, she couldn't go to the bathroom, and she went anyways. And then the teacher I guess was talking shit on her while she was gone. Didn't actually do anything like try to get her in trouble, any formal trouble, because the teacher was wrong, obviously. But yeah, my daughter told me about it, and it's like, I want you to talk to the teacher. I was like, I told you I would, so I will.
You should. And I'll give you another tip. So you could hit up I don't know how the schools, but you can hit up the counselor and try and get her something called a flash pass. Flash pass. Yeah. It's just like a flash pass is like the kids should be able to just like flash a pass and be able to leave whenever they want. And just say, my kid needs a flash pass. She has whatever, what do you require? Just see if you can get that.
Okay, well, thank you.
Help give her like some time to get around and leave.
Yeah.
Huh?
M's in the house. Hello, M.
I love it. Okay, bye everybody.
Thank you for joining.
Much love, Laurie Chick. Appreciate it.
Hey, M. Welcome back.
We have an old school legend,
right? Oh, girl, there's links everywhere. Just touch one
I
of
just
them.
dropped another one. I know that
It's pinned. I pinned it. It was pinned the first time it dropped.
Yep. That's good. Good shit. Hall pass. Yeah. No, she wanted my daughter. I was not sure what resolution my daughter wanted at first, but she was like an apology. I'm like, all right. Does it have to be in front of the whole class, like she was talking shit, or like?
Well, I think getting a good old fashioned tongue lashing to a teacher who's just exerting power for the sake of exerting it. See, there's one thing. If you ask, hey, can I go to the bathroom? And she's like, in a minute. And then a few minutes later, it's like, hey, go ahead. That's one thing. If this happens and it's just no, and she makes everybody wait till the end of class, that's completely out. That's not a thing. People have infections. Children have problems. There are all kinds of reasons why that should not even be considered.
Ever. Yep.
Because saying I want to go to the bathroom might be code to I need to talk to the principal, I need to go to the counselor, I need to do this, that, or some other third thing, call my father or whatever. It's not their
I
business.
just need to go to the fucking bathroom, right?
Yeah,
Like,
true. I mean,
and you know, the schools have cameras everywhere except for in the bathroom. They're gonna know if the kid went to the bathroom or not. But yeah, so anyways, she wants an apology from the teacher. It's really just she's asserting her dominance, right? Because there was no actual repercussions from this. But I think it is proper of her, so I told her I would. So gonna need an apology out of that teacher and a fast flash pass. Sweet, we'll get that for all the kids. Susan Bassey is a champion for family court.
Oh, that's good. So we just get one for all the kids. That's great.
Yeah.
Start a revolution.
It's bullshit. Like, it actually pisses me off that schools are just like tightening and tightening and tightening. It's like ratcheting down the control.
Well, I mean, it does go towards that school to prison pipeline you hear people talking about. It's not a complete myth. I mean, it's not. It's not preferable, but there does seem to be a large portion of students rolling straight from high school directly into prison. And I don't know why.
You don't. You can't see it.
Well, I mean, I could say, oh, well, it's a crooked system. Well, it's bad laws. It's bad enforcement. It's bad cops. It's all this stuff. CPS, you freaking name it. But it's not any one of those things. It's all of that stuff. All of it.
Okay, this question from old Joe. I had two questions or comments highlighted, and now I'm looking backstage. I've got this one, which is the correct one, and the other one that I highlighted was not the one I meant to highlight. So I don't remember who had a good thought or question that I'm not coming back to, but whatever. That's what you get when you watch a channel full of 8-up motherfuckers like us. Old Joe says, Flo, could they compel your wife to testify against you? No, you cannot compel spouses to testify against each other. But when I got raided, well, I mean, still, Katie and I are not legally married. They can compel your girlfriend to testify against you.
They can compel Hunter Biden as well, because he can no longer be charged with these crimes. He can now be compelled to testify about these crimes.
Is that true? I don't know if that's true.
Pretty sure that's true, dude. He cannot be charged with it, but he can be held in contempt for not showing evidence, because he has evidence of anything that they want to ask about. I'm worried. I have a sneaking suspicion that whoever's throwing these pardons around like confetti did it specifically to get a direct in on someone, because you can't charge him with the crimes, but you can charge him with contempt for not testifying properly.
Well, I don't know about
how run as long as it needs to. They can put his ass in jail from now to the end of time if he doesn't testify.
That's a decent theory, actually. There's got to be some reason that the pardons and the clemency was handled this way. Like, the explanation is I don't buy that at all. But yeah, you can. So, anyways, get to the question. No. Husbands and wives have legal protection from being obligated to testify against each other. But if you're just boyfriend and girlfriend living together, that actually is so routine to try to. And what they did with me is they had no idea anybody lived with me except for myself when they came to serve the warrant. They were surprised that a kid answered the door and that there was a woman here and another kid, right? Like they told him to get lost. And then they arrested me. But when I made bond the first time, then they issued an arrest warrant for Katie with all of the exact same charges. The difference is that my charges came with $100,000 bond. Her charges came with a $2,500 bond, right? They're not trying to keep her in there. They have something they want from her. And that is to strengthen their case against me. And that's so common. That's so automatic that the same day that I made bond, I knew to look at the warrant list online, right? I knew it was coming, and I already had arrangements for her in Los Angeles, right? Like it just is. It's a rule, not an exception, to try to exploit those relationships.
I mean, think about it. If you can put it's just one page out of the lawfare book. I mean, they just make life a living hell until you deal with all the things you're supposed to deal with.
Yep.
By their description.
And the kids are always, if there's a kid that can be leveraged in a criminal case, it always is, regardless of whether or not it affected the kid at all. And somebody else I know, this is more recent than any of my shit, got picked up for financial crimes, right? Felony, but not anything violent.
Right.
Or dangerous, right? It would have nothing to do with your capacity as a parent, just your sleaziness as a member of society. Took away the 5-year-old son, would not tell her where he was at, would not allow her to have any contact or anybody else in the family have contact with this kid until she signed a plea, confessed, basically. Once she confessed, then they told her where she'd get her kid from. And she had her sister go get the kid because her sister was closer. They gave so few fucks about this kid. They didn't even ask the name of the person picking him up. They're just like, I'm here for the kid. And they're like, okay, go get it. Didn't even check who they just sent a 5-year-old off with. So it's, it is the time to throw some shade.
Yeah.
Are you throwing it at M for not being up here yet?
I kind of am. I'm not going to lie. I'm disappointed. I kind of hope she could touch something and that her tech would actually work for 37 seconds. But then again, she does have to send snail mail internet signals, so we'll see.
I had noticed that her she had been active on Facebook again, right? Which I took as a good sign. Oh, right. She's resurfaced here. Now I haven't any idea what she is active about because her comments are too long.
Right. TLDRs. Yeah, also I have the Shade Master in my chat over here just for anybody who's interested. So when it's time to throw some shade, start with the Shade Master.
Yeah, Kara, one of the cash for kids, there's two of them. One of them got his sentence commuted, the rest of it acts. And the way that happened is that he had been when the lockdowns for Koof happened, they sent a lot of older inmates to do house arrest instead of being in prison if they were.
How do you reckon the families panned out on that one? You're sitting around and Uncle Joe's been in prison for 18 years. He's got another 3 or 4 years left on his sentence, and he shows up on a Tuesday knocking on the door going, "Hey, they let me out early." How you reckon that flew? Can I stay with you and your 16 kids?
Yeah, I mean, they don't let you go to house arrest until they know that you have a place to go. They have to have a place to put the box at, right? Not everybody. House arrest is not only done through ankle monitors. A lot of places, especially if you're on like more restrictive forms of things, they've got it's a little box, and it's got a video screen and like a straw sticking out of it, so you can be ordered to do a breathalyzer at any time. So. Anyways, yeah, so because of Koof, he got to do the last 5 years at his home instead of in prison. And now Joe Biden gave clemency to everybody who was still out on this program. Full, broad strokes, 1,500 people don't have to do the rest of their sentence, and he was one of them. And I think it's
I don't know anybody who would pretend to be him. What's up, brother?
How's it going, my man?
Have you met Flow State?
Nice.
I have met Flow State very, very briefly. Sorry, I had to I had the stream on, so I had to close that for a sec. we've met briefly, Powder Dusty, but okay, we have a news story about judges for kids. Catch me up. I know that I know the catch me up on this bullshit. Catch me up.
All right. Two guys, the Cash for Kids scandal that went down 15 years ago. Two judges got sentenced to prison time, one for 26 years, one for 17 and a half, I believe. The one who got sentenced for 17 and a half years, now he was instrumental in shutting down the existing prison. And this, you may know this, but it is for everybody. He was instrumental in shutting down the existing state-run county-run child inmate place. He got that shut down so that a new private one could move in and take over. The private business then doled out $2.8 million to these two judges, and the judges sent tons and tons of kids there. Were way more extreme with it. They're both in Pennsylvania. Remains to this day the state with the highest percentage of their incarcerated kids in private prison custody. Just egregious shit they did for about a decade or more before they got busted and sent to prison.
Okay, so this is a for-profit prison system set up. Now, did I mishear that? But was it also implied that they would be used for menial labor or for hard labor?
It was not implied. I don't know if that's the case. I don't know.
All right. So it was just basically a cash scheme for a
These two judges abused their position as judges to steal kids and sell them to a company that wanted to
pretty much. Yeah, that would use them as cash cows for a prison system, basically.
Right. They're a product.
Now I'm okay. Sasquatch is gonna fill you in on this. I hate everything government used. Like I do not like. If you have, I am the first person to tell him we do not need a Department of Education. Full stop. Fuck it. We don't need
trash. And I went, but I think you might be right.
No. Now that's even more egregious. But hear me out. I hate privatized prisons more than I think I would despise the concept of a Department of Education. If you fuck up so bad as a society that you need to make money off of your prison system, I'm sorry, but your prison cost as a society is the price of your failure, and that needs to be measured publicly.
I like that. I really
as a public cost. Now, if you want to compensate for the cost incurred, we have old style bullshit to make up for that shit. We know what a coliseum is. We know what death games are, and we can pay-per-view that shit. Like we can make up the difference, not a problem. But the actual initial cost, and he's busting a gut. But okay, dude, guys, we don't need to do death games anymore, because nothing's more fucking American than a redemption arc. And you can pick whatever fucking field you want. It could be fucking baking. It could be chop shop. It could be fuck it, pest control. You have televised competitions and ad revenue for inmate competition for productive skills. Fuck it, we can comp those costs. But the initial cost for someone being so maladaptive to society is a societal burden we must bear.
I have an interesting point on that. In Atlanta, the Atlanta, Georgia jails over here, we have a prisoner who has killed so many women in his serial killer lifetime that he can't remember them all. So the ones he remembers, he's painting. So ostensibly, this was part of the sentencing with the judge. He kind of volunteered to do it. The judge wrote it in as an additional thing. Go ahead, paint all the victims you can remember. So he's painting his victims ostensibly to help identify them. But those paintings are being sold.
I was just...
Oh, wow.
And can you imagine the types of prices that serial killer paintings can pull?
Well,
Dude,
yeah.
if Hunter
If Katie's
Biden,
listening, then I might have to buy one. So thanks for
okay,
that.
look. If Hunter Biden can launder money illegitimately by selling a BS painting,
No, literally
then
his poop in the paint. Literally.
yeah,
And Joe
I
Biden
believe it.
Hunter's painting.
I believe it. If we can get stupid, obsessive, prison brides to outbid one another hundreds of thousands of dollars for these victim paintings, yeah, I mean, Godspeed.
Yeah,
My point still stands. We have a system. We have a motivate. We do not need a for-profit prison system at all. I apologize for interrupting you, Flow
Yeah,
State.
no, you're good. You're good. I think that we like all of our, especially our enforcement mechanisms, but government incentives in and of themselves it's the problem, right? Cops are not no level of law enforcement at any level is ever rewarded for reducing crime. The opposite is true. They're rewarded for increasing crime. If you look at the way DOJ grants to local law enforcement are structured, it's never for a reduction in crime. It is always for the most. They always want guns. They want people caught with things. They want things off the streets and into the courts. They don't want any sort of prevention.
I don't, and that is a problem as old as humanity. Because I heard a wonderful quote from the series Gotham, where Falcone's talking to a new Lieutenant Gordon, and he says, "Look, you cannot have organized crime without law and order." And how fucking true.
Yeah.
You cannot have organized crime without law and order. And look, we are human beings. Any cage you make for us is with our consent. Any cage you make. Sorry, go on.
Penguin as an example. The Penguin, out of all of Batman's villains, the Penguin was the only one that regularly got put into Blackgate instead of Arkham because he was a criminal, not criminally insane. Right?
Yeah.
The other guys are all super villains of some description or another, and this guy's just a bank rolling mobster. They put him in prison. They didn't put him in Arkham, but occasionally, and I can think of two cases where Batman did this. When the shit hit the fan and he started locking folks up, he left the Penguin standing there with all the cash and just walked away because the Penguin on the streets prevents the Joker and various other people that might be out there from taking over as the Gotham underworld kingpin. When the Penguin's out, it's so laws.
I'm going to back you up. Because I grew up in I grew up in a little town in California called La Puente in the 90s. So in the 90s, this was like a little up and coming Compton. Like one of the OG towns. I got to watch OGs from East Los Angeles come over, try to retire, and watch their children pick up the old business. That's where I grew up. So I got to watch this family, spread their influence. And they lived right down my block. I got to watch these people get shot at on a monthly basis for the formative years of my life. And so to pause that, because I move out of California and I go to marry in Texas, start a family and all that stuff. I start doing a security gig in a complex called Budget Suites. My God, it is an apartment type ghetto. They are ghettos. They are institutional ghettos where the only thing you need to pass is a background check because these are people with shitty credit and all that stuff. These people of history. And I shit you not, we had a wonderful manager who was good with the city police. If we called, they would show up. But there was one. But there was, and everything would pop off at least once a month. I would get major activity, major traffic. I would have to crack down on a room, crack down on a building. Like I was investigating and documenting shit like a PI as a security officer, as a private security. Like I was private
You were
security.
Paul Blart in
budget
that
suite.
shit.
I hate you.
Dude. Yes, no, you should. You
I
should.
do.
I was
I
not.
hated you before,
I was
but
not
now
a good person.
I have a reason.
My job was a corporate policy enforcer. I was the shittiest human on the whole property. Like no doubt.
Come on, man.
But-
You weren't a lawyer. Chill out.
Yeah, well, dude, I had to document shit like a lawyer every night, every fucking night. But anyways, so there is a time where, despite everything popping off, it started to lull. It started to go quiet.
Well, hold on. What were
And my-
the pop-offs correlated with? What was causing them?
Drug traffic, prostitution, domestic disputes, and
But like,
then
was there a pattern that was causal? Like,
you know what? I didn't notice this until what I'm about to share with you, because because when things quiet down and the pattern breaks, then you start to realize what's normal and what's not. Okay, so I'm experiencing a huge lull on the property. Like nothing is happening. But it's, for all intents and purposes, it's dead. And then, out of nowhere, this resident who had been with us for a couple of months, I'm saying between 4 and 6 months, walks in. He's a big, he's kind of a bigger black dude, and he is so homely, so very very friendly, very cordial. He's trying to start his own barbecue business and all this stuff. And I remember the room every night. He had a couple guys hanging out. We would tell him to turn down the music. He was always accommodating, very polite, never shook anything. And then it was like I had this massive flashback, because I shit you not, the demeanor and character of this man was literally the same as the father of the boys who started up the business back at home on my street. The same kind of dude. And I didn't know if it was just me. I thought I might have been crazy. But I turned to Marcus, the general manager, and I turned him like, I don't know if you need to be told this, but I'm letting you know right now. If such and such room, this particular individual, is ever involved in anything, I am letting you know right now, we are not going to catch them. And Marcus, and this general manager, bless his soul, without skipping a beat, said, "You're damn right. We're not going to catch them."
Yeah, they don't pay us enough for that trash. I'm not going head to head mafioso, and I can recognize from a distance.
No, it's deeper than that. It's deeper than that, because everything you said is true. The big fish keeps the little ones away, and it's more chaotic with the little fishes having a free for all than it is one big fish you can trust. Now,
you can expect things from. See, that's the thing is how far can you trust a criminal when they're already a criminal? The mafia had rules. If you violate the rules, they will deal with that trash themselves. You don't need to call the cops, because you'll be dead and they'll get their comeuppance from the family.
Mm-hmm. And the mafia. Sorry. Are you muted?
I hope so. I was coughing.
Oh, okay.
I was born in Kansas City in the 80s. I was born into a mob-owned apartment complex, and I don't remember it, but my mom said that it was much more. It was in the hood. It was owned by the mob. It was very safe.
Yes.
Right.
Now, and what's funny is that, back to the whole law and order aspect, the mob would pat the law enforcement on the back, because every once in a while the cops need their numbers too. They need their patsies too. So what would the mob do? They'd find a patsy to start selling drugs or slinging dope or whatever it was. And it was the typical ethnicity. Don't need to mention that. But sure enough, they'd set up a guy. He'd start getting flamboyant. And as soon as he started making himself known, the mafia would let the cops roll them over. So the numbers had to be there. The pretense of law and order had to still exist.
Correct. And a certain amount of chaos, a certain amount of visible disorder and chaos is what provides the feeling of law and order, right? Oh, look, the cops arrested that person. Now I feel safer. The guy that you described, who do cookouts and have people over, like it was just a brief description, but it was interesting. I knew a guy exactly like that. I mean, that's what they do, right? They and that's how they meet people. They're very friendly. They come on over, try my barbecue. The guy I'm thinking of, he was actually Michael Vick's roommate for a while.
Oh, shit.
But
it's funny.
They are the most.
Hold on a second. For an observation, every government entity out there has only one purpose and function, is to get more budgeting next year. And the only way to do that is to spend into deficit this year to prove that you need more money. It doesn't matter. If you set up a government institution for a function, you will gain more of that function. If it's homelessness, you will get more homelessness. If it's drugs, you will get more drugs. If it's crime, you will get more crime.
correct.
Interesting.
You ever heard of any government organization ever doing too good a job and working itself out of existence? Absolutely not.
Well, apparently there's this thing. Well, apparently DOGE is supposed to be the exception, the Department of Government Efficiency, which I'm like, maybe it'll work. I hope to God it does. But
yeah, we're going to get more efficiency. I just don't see it. What happens is you get more inefficiency to prove the need for this department.
Yeah, you have more people who need to oversee efficiency standards. You just created another bubble of bureaucracy.
Yep.
Well, I don't know. There's a part of me who wishes and yearns for an inverted IRS where we the people just go, oh, no, you don't need that. Fuck off. You don't need that. Fuck off. Like, for example, we just being like, cut off the Department of Education. We don't need it. Fuck off.
The FBI. We have other institutions that do exactly the same job as the FBI, but the FBI is more political, and so it's more useful under certain circumstances.
I mean, we should. The only reason that we'll never probably, until the U.S. collapses, we're going to have the DEA with us is like, and drug laws. That's just way too big. That's just a massive industry. You can't stop the war on drugs. You'd have an economic, just an issue. You would have fallout.
Right. I mean, the entire premise of asset forfeiture is based around the drug war.
Yes. And did you know that? And well, I don't know if it's this way everywhere, but at least in my state, forfeited assets are split 50-50 between the seizing agency and the prosecutor's office. Literally, the sheriffs and then the prosecutor split that shit 50-50.
Furthermore, in order to retrieve those assets, you do not sue the state, you do not sue the county, you do not sue those agencies. You must sue your property and prove it was not doing guilty things.
They bought the county I got hemmed up in bought their first armored robot.
We got an MRAP.
Yeah,
we got a full-blown MRAP, an anti-mine, anti-personnel, crowd control vehicle.
But let me explain. The county that I got hemmed up in had so little crime that in the 6 years I lived there was the same number of murders in the county as there was at my high school in the 4 years I went to high school there.
Wow.
And I went to a private high school.
Wow.
So wow. What? 2, 3, 5?
It depends. Well, okay, so it depends on if you count the fetuses as well. But we're talking 2, maybe 2.5 people.
2.5 people. That's dark. Oh, that's so dark.
Oh man.
It's dark.
True. Yeah.
Oh, shit. God,
anyway,
dude.
My point is what the fuck is this county doing? Buying the cops? They bought a drone and a robot that was capable of going into dangerous situations that would be too dangerous for humans. Like, motherfucker, the most dangerous thing any of these cops have to do ever is drive their vehicle.
Yeah, yeah, it is ridiculous. I'm not actually opposed to law enforcement getting, bigger, uh, better tools. I'm not opposed to, the
I
big
am. They
stick
need to do some
deterrent.
goddamn work of like do
I'm
your job.
opposed. I'm opposed to the militarization of law enforcement. Law enforcement's not supposed to be an boots on the ground military organization, and that is what it is becoming.
Yes. If
Okay.
if you can't catch if you don't know somebody's doing crime the old school way, you don't need to be able to like tap their cell or geo sweep cell phones and shit just to fish. They do fishing now.
Really?
I mean, um, and by fishing, I mean like fishing expeditions, right? That's what cops do. They are not interested in restoring crime. They're not interested in preventing crime. What they're doing is just rummaging around the community, seeing who they can shake out in possession of something they're not allowed to own.
That's what the whole thing with dogs are. See, dogs are completely unreliable. They are more easily trained to trigger, and if a dog triggers in every vehicle, you never find out about it.
And that dog gets a treat every time.
Every single time, whether he's right or not, but they will take your freaking vehicle completely apart and toss your shit on the ground next to it and then walk away. Have a nice day.
Damn. Yeah, that's
Because they train the dog to alert when they tell it to. And that is retarded.
Yeah, I mean the dog is just a complete legal workaround for due process. It's worse than the I smell weed thing. Is the dog treated as anything valid at all?
Oh, I'm okay. Okay. As I said, I was a corporate policy enforcer for this.
You're not the only turkey bacon that comes around these parts.
I understand, but and besides, I moved on. I've changed vocations. I'm now working on automation technology.
He's a smart turkey bacon.
And I'm learning how to code. So I have repented of my old life. But in any case, I have experience with
We
like
in the criminal community demand restitution in the forms of regular super chats. And once I get remonetized, I suppose.
Yeah, when we get super chats back.
Right. That's
My
part of the
God.
problem with being part of the criminal community. It's not a great retirement plan. Go ahead.
But I'll because I've dealt with, again, trafficking, like legitimate like drug traffic, prostitution, and domestics, and I'm sorry, in my experience on the properties that I worked on, I have never had the cops called out to investigate or shake down someone who didn't do nothing. That never happened on my properties.
What you mean that if they harass somebody long enough, they were going to find a roach in the extremely ghetto bottom of the barrel hotels you manage, of course.
Yeah, and that's kind of my issue is people want that there's a narrative and there's a pretense from what I've seen, and we might disagree on this. That's fine. Um, but from what I've seen, that there's this idea that, oh, they're just doing the drug charge because they just wanted to get him or some other bullshit. No, in my experience, the point of contact for this individual that they are using the drug charge for was probably something far more nefarious.
Was it you calling the? Oh, did you say? Yeah, it was you calling them. It's because you had a board
Yeah.
relations manager.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would either they were beating on somebody, they were slinging their supply around, and when
Which
they
should
would
be legal, and which should be legal. It should be legal for adults to decide to make irresponsible decisions if it's just their own. Like I'm about to when I smoked a cigar.
eh, okay, okay. I'm of two minds on that. I'm not again because I have grown up in that environment, and I also have family with ties to that. I am of two minds. Like there again, I hate small time fish. They just
Well,
make shit
can
up.
you tell me at least one of those two minds so we can move the conversation forward?
Both
Okay,
of them are
because
enigmatic.
I don't mind adults doing adult shit. The problem that I have is when the adult shit trickles down, deeper into, schools and youth and all that stuff.
Yeah, which
If it's
would
gonna,
still be illegal under the paradigm where everything's
it,
legalized, right?
it still would be, but goddamn, we should not have 13-year-olds with access to
Do you?
any methamphetamine whatsoever.
However, the fact that we have these drug laws is the only reason methamphetamine is accessible to them, right? Because it was developed as a combat to combat crack, and look, it's easier for kids to get drugs than alcohol.
If it wasn't a valuable commodity, there would not be a black market for it. And if there wasn't a black market for it, it wouldn't be nearly as valuable commodity.
Correct.
The thing is, what makes it valuable is the fact that you do so much time if you get caught messing with it. That is the more time it takes to pay off what it is that you're doing, the more valuable that substance becomes.
Yep. And that's everything that you grew up witnessing in your community, by the way, is exactly the result of drug laws, not of drugs, right? The bootleggers went away as any sort of a societal influence when alcohol just became legal. As did all the mobsters that were running that shit, right? We didn't have all these street gangs until we had the war on drugs. Go ahead, Sasquatch.
There's another layer to the drug war that a lot of people don't consider. Once they passed these laws against the buying, selling, trafficking, use, consumption, operation of vehicles, all of that stuff, they then went into the employment arena and made it illegal to hire people that were utilizing these drugs. Have you ever seen a functional alcoholic?
Mm-hmm.
Some of the best people I have ever hired, the best workers on earth, would drink a half gallon of gin a day or damn close to it. And at 9 o'clock in the morning was already on his second pint. But he's one of the best carpenters I've ever laid my eyes on. And I can't hire him as a legitimate employee because he can't pass a drug screen to the point that the insurance company requires. But that goes a lot right downhill to marijuana, to meth, to heroin, to the whole nine. Have you ever known a functional heroin addict? Believe it or not, they do exist. Heroin
not
is
very long. I mean, I haven't known one for very long. Needles, for whatever reason, needles, in my experience, seem to be the breaking point. You can have a functioning anything until they start shooting up, and then
when it comes
to
heroin,
they don't exist. I'm just saying, I was never a shooter, so I wasn't really around a lot of them.
I was never a shooter, but when it comes to heroin, the smoking aspect of it is just as magnificently destructive. I mean, it is unbelievably addictive, unbelievably destructive to the person doing it. And it turns into very much like getting hooked on ice, a constant every day, all the time until you pass out kind of thing.
Yeah, I'll be honest. My only exposure to I grew up Mormon. Like I have the most straightest line. Like, outside of my neighborhood,
I had more butt sex with chicks than we have. I hear.
Really?
Yeah.
The
virginity trope joke.
Dude, I lost my virginity to anal. Like, I put it.
Trope is real.
In her. I put it in her.
Scotty did apologize for that, bro.
I put it in her butt, and I didn't even notice, and she didn't tell me till after. I'm like, and it wasn't until dating a few other ladies after that I realized that's not normal.
So this all happened not because it had anything to do with Mormons trying to avoid. You just had butt sex to lose your virginity on accident, and also happened to be raised Mormon.
Yeah,
that's crazy. That's great.
Yeah. the girl was a freak. Yeah, I don't know what to tell you.
I hooked a Mormon chick just out of high school, and she gave away butt sex like it was a hand job. It was absolutely ridiculous.
I don't know what I don't know. I don't know.
Okay.
Maybe
it
sounds like you did. Sounds like you know.
You might have known. I think you're coping, sir.
Dude.
But before we lose it, I think and maybe this is me projecting my own conclusion on what Sasquatch is saying, but the reason that there are not functional hard drug addicts, well, there are actually a lot more than you realize you interact with every day. But the reason that there are fewer of them is not because the drug is worse. Actually, it's almost universally alcohol is the worst drug. It's because you're able to be an alcoholic and live legally. You have to live and do all the crime shit, the seedy shit, deal with criminals and tainted substances and shortages and surpluses and strength differences, and you know it necessitates the whole lifestyle.
Also, people used to say all the time that marijuana is a gateway drug. I firmly believe marijuana was set up to be a gateway drug by its scheduling class in its initial inception. The reason being, in order to interact with anyone to get marijuana, you originally had to go through criminals, right? The criminals are the people bringing in the real drugs. And so saying marijuana is a gateway drug, you can have somebody who buys weed, who doesn't smoke weed, who just sells weed, and he has to go to a criminal who also sells all kinds of other stuff.
Correct.
Yeah.
Now, I will. What I was going to say is, I grew up rather straight laced. However, I was in Occupy LA in like 2011, where the wild hippie shit was going on, and I saw a girl shoot up a black tar Mexican cartel heroin. Dude, I no longer understood the appeal of heroin.
I love you. I love you. But there's no way you can stand at a distance and tell me you know where that fucking smack came from.
Okay. No, that's a fine critique. All I know is that it looked like she was melting dirt in a spoon.
All right, I accept that was Mexican black tar heroin.
And she did this by motherfucking those shitty
you ever seen
razor phones that opened up?
Hold on, Sasquatch. I gotta push back and say that by the time you're on the street shooting something up, that spoon, everything melted on that spoon is turning black at that point.
That's true.
Okay, my point is, she pulled that melted black tar shit in the syringe by the light of a razor flip phone. Okay.
Oh yeah, they're good.
And she could not be happier to get this stuff in her.
Oh yeah.
Not 20 minutes later, this girl is sprawled out and in misery.
No, she's
on the sidewalk. And
probably she did something stupid like you ever. Hey, do you have any water? No. Is that a pop can? Yeah. These people will draw up with anything. But I'm scraping it on the concrete to try to sharpen it back up. Go ahead.
I'm looking at this girl, and she just 20 minutes later, she is strung out and coming down already, and it is the most god awful sight I've ever seen. I'm like, who the fuck wants to do this shit? Like, what? Where is the appeal? So I think you're onto something when it comes to the whole shooting up thing, because this girl was not having a good time.
Well, we were getting to the fact of the concept of a functional anything, right? They're functional meth heads. We call them weekend warriors. They're
we call them
lawyer. So, students probably should get a prescription.
We call them children. Right.
For the most part, yeah. But no, there are these guys who don't do anything for 2-3 weeks straight, and then they go on an absolute tear for 4 days on a weekend. They try to line it up with things like Christmas and New Year's and stuff.
The kids are going to their cousins now.
Oh man,
they've got it all under control. But the reality,
by the time that van's out the driveway, they're like, hey, Dave,
are you there? Are you at home? Can I come by? I'm going to come see you. I'm on my way. I'm already outside. I'm in a bush.
yeah. Shit.
Tap it on the window.
Okay, I'll just wait in the driveway.
Oh, that's one guy I would never mess with. You show up at my house and tap on the window just as the phone's ringing and your ass is off the list.
Oh yeah, I actually had if you showed up at my house, well, at all uninvited, specifically that time, you were having issues. Or if you brought anyone, if you left anybody in the car who I didn't, like there's authorized people. You know, just because you're allowed to come over doesn't mean anybody else is. And most people would just like get punishment price increases, which was
Okay,
also
this is a good question right here. I like this one. Are safe injection sites a good thing? All right. So, like the Shade Master over here was saying, I almost dead named you, dude. My bad. Anyway, so after the Shade, after he was saying, I'm kind of two minds of this. These people are going to do this regardless of what facilities you set up to do it. So, I like the concept of harm reduction over criminalization, even though it is more expensive than criminalization.
I think
It takes the enforcement out of cops' hands and puts it into medical hands, and I think that is a better, safer location for drug abuse to be handled.
All right.
you also don't have it. Like I just don't believe that there's anybody who ever started shooting up because of the availability of a needle. What I do think is a little sus is the injection. The places down here that will give you clean points, they'll also give you clean pipes. Like they give out meth pipes. That seems to be enabling at this point.
Here's a weird thing. No, I've got a counter to that. Here, they're not allowed to do that, but they sell these like 25-cent rose things that come in a perfect little pipe, right? And it's already basically juiced up. It has everything. Gizmo. And then they've got these keychain things that you can buy that are like 25 cents or $1.
No, I'm not saying buy. Needle. I'm saying you can go to the hospital and get a bubble gifted.
Give them away here. They cannot give them away, but you can go to the gift shop. You can go to the pharmacy. You can go over here and you can get this little rose in a crack pipe. It's just dressed up as something else. It's still available and absurdly cheap too.
You ever gone to the air pump at a gas station and been like, why the fuck do these air pumps always have all the metal fittings missing on the end?
Yeah.
So this is hilarious. This happened to me when my kids were little. We went down to the square over here, and there are 2 pharmacies on the square. And somehow, me, my wife, their mama, somebody gave them a couple of bucks, and they ran off to go get barbecue or whatever it was that was going on. And they both came back with 5 roses each. They had just bought a baker's dozen of crack pipes.
God.
And when I saw what they had, of course, they're giving out roses left, right, and center to everybody, but they kept all the glass because, and I quote, it might be dangerous. But I didn't find out about this until after I found 5 crack pipes in my daughter's freaking book bag with a rubber band around them. And I was like, all right, so
we got a problem.
8. But I mean, we have a problem, even though you're 8, and I just don't believe you understand exactly what this is going to do when you take it to school. It's not going to be, oh, look at the cool glass piece. This is going to involve charges for everybody 3 generations out.
Okay, I'm not going to disagree with the notion of shit being bad because it's criminalized, and because it's criminalized, the situation just gets worse and worse. Here's what I will say on the topic of safe injection sites, and it's along the same vein as any other form of degeneracy that you encounter in society. Let me explain my position. Anytime someone uses the argument, I don't care what people do in their private free time, or they do in their bedroom, or they do, in their private lives, so on and so forth, I know they're bullshitting me, because if it was just about people doing shit in their free time, I wouldn't be fucking hearing about it. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I don't know that I do.
If
you're hearing about it, then they're obviously doing it outside of their private life, right?
They're doing it outside of their private life. It has.
So you can say that you still don't care about what they do in their privacy, and it's illustrated that you actually don't care what they do in the privacy of their home, because you only care once it's no longer private.
Exactly, and it's had such an effect on their life that the action itself has become so prevalent that they now have to defend it in the public space. don't ever let that argument throw you off. Obviously, there is something about this action that is causing a public disturbance.
Yeah, it could be the people that have an issue with it, right? Like, I don't give a fuck about feminism's a great one because when I came to YouTube, I met anti-feminists all over the place who swear up and down the ills of feminism are causing all the problems in the world. I have literally never been impacted by feminists at all in any way until I met the anti-feminists.
Really? Okay.
Right. And now feminism only, I still believe, impacts me through their actions. Their belief in this problem is the only thing that's giving it any actual traction, at least in my experience. So the resistance itself can be the source of the problem.
Damn it. You got me sick, Flo. It's all your fault.
That's what you get for knowing too much stuff.
Yeah. I'm not sure about that, Flo. I'm still on the position of people who want to use the arm. Oh, they're just using it for their own personal use, or we have safe injection sites. Okay. The reason I have problems with this is because if this is something that you say is something that is just because that is just a personal choice or a lifestyle thing, and it was just that, and that's all.
An example. You illustrate this with an example that's specific.
Okay, let's. The specific example on screen right here is a safe injection site for drug use, shooting up heroin, shooting up whatever it is, and I'm gonna come on the side and say this is a net negative because the reason that we have these sites is because these people are making fools of themselves in public. They are generally homeless. They're taking smack. They're being disruptive.
Okay, well, but those are cardboard users. The issue isn't the smack. It's, if you notice, all of them have some affiliation to cardboard. They're either holding the sign, they're sitting on it, they're sleeping under it. We need to ban cardboard.
Even though he muted himself, I could hear him dying on the side.
It's the water. We got to fix the water. Outlaw water immediately. I hear they breathe air.
Yeah, if you notice, like, this is why I'm suspicious of Sasquatch. The longer somebody's hair grows, the more their life falls apart. So if we could enforce mandatory daily shaving of all your body hair, that would help reduce the problems that these hairy people are causing. See,
the cars, they get less accidents. So I think we should ban white cars, black cars, gray cars. They get more accidents.
Oh yeah, as long as you don't ban yellow ones, we're good.
But see, you see the correlation causation thing. Like, sure, if you're living in a refrigerator box in the alley, you better start doing drugs. It's about the only thing you got to look forward to.
Why should you start doing drugs? Like, okay, mind you, this shit's happening in places.
Wait. There's a caveat to this. If using drugs is what got you there, you should stop. If you end up there without drugs in your life, consider it.
So, on average,
it's no worse at that point, really.
So on average, would safe injection sites be a really good thing?
I think that they're overall net positive for everybody except for the people who live around that site, because all you're doing is attracting the sort of people to hang out there that you don't want hanging out next door.
So setting up the safe injection site would fuel the problem we're trying to avoid with the
no, it would just condense it in the local neighborhood.
That was my second mind of it. That was exactly where I was going to go, and I'm of two minds of it. First,
I think it reduces the problem. It just pulls it into one area. So again, go ahead.
The hardcore addicts know where these places are, and they go there to get it. Your homeless people will also know where these places are, will go to get as many as they can to take advantage of them in other places where these sites aren't available, right? So they'll take the free stuff and then go to the underpass 8 miles away and sell it for $2 a month.
I like where you're going with that. If I can just Exactly, Uncle Fatty. Not in my backyard. But here's where I think you go, or here's where it could go. Instead of having it in a neighborhood kind of environment or just on the street, wouldn't it be better to have it in a medical or licensed arena?
Right, so
Like
that's
rather,
what I was saying.
So
When
doctor can light my bowl for me? What, like?
No, what I was getting at a while ago is this is the thing that we have looked at in a criminal light for the past 50, 60 years. It has never been approached in America as a medical issue or a psychological issue. There has never been places set up specifically for our abusers that were funded largely by like the federal government. You know what I mean? We call them prisons, but that's not what prisons are for. There are rehab centers. They're all privately run or attached to some kind of .org or another. Most of those are international affiliates of some larger institution that's functioning as a nonprofit or whatnot. But anyway, there is no interest in right. No, most successful rehabs are started by recovered addicts.
And also, well, I mean, that's why I want to do it too. But also, I don't know how it is there. In Kansas, there was like a 4-month waiting list to get transfer bed to open up if you're sitting in jail waiting. So there's demand.
There's an endless demand.
I just proposed like basically the exact thing this whole stream is about not supporting. Anyways, go ahead. Let's get back on track.
We'll start our rehab and call it Black Snake Moan Rehab.
I would go to that rehab knowing that I was maybe making an awful decision, but possibly.
Yeah, it's an awful decision because we have radiators lined up down the straight of the room, and we just chain each junkie to a radiator.
If Christina Ricci is chained to the radiator next to mine, we'll be fine.
No. Christina Ricci was the junkie. You are the junkie, sir. You're the bride.
But it's not going to have one patient at a time.
But what we are going to have is a Samuel L. Jackson impersonator coming to cuss them out on a daily basis.
Okay, that sounds like a positive too.
Gentlemen, I'm going to jump out. It's been real fun. It's been phenomenal. I love where this headed.
Do you have a channel? Drop your link backstage, and I'll put it in the main chat. And also,
hey.
I assume you came in. You came in Sasquatch.
Yeah.
Twice.
I mean, oops. Pause. Anyways, let me drop a link to my channel as well, so you can come back.
Pause. I was almost done.
All right.
D, talk him off real quick. Well,
talk him off.
That is my private chat. That my private link, or the link to my channel. Now, what I am the Shade Master. If you have ever been playing Magic the Gathering, or if you don't like where that particular nerddom is going, I'm the guy who is going to war with Wizards of the Coast and telling them, you know what, fuck off. We can do better. Like we deserve better.
Cooler before you started explaining it.
Yeah. I do tabletop gaming. So, yeah. But I also throw shade on all things.
I don't know what I don't know, but Shade Master was badass, and you kind of to the uninitiated ears, you're like just watering down that.
Yeah, I wouldn't pitch too hard. I'd just drop your link and move on, brother. We'll pick up more subscribers that way. They can be pleasantly surprised later.
He uploads daily shorts of his butthole winking to musical rhythm.
It looks like Saturn.
Yes.
All right, you've got people now. You've got expectations set, so don't let us down.
I want you to go and get a picture of Saturn every day to upload to your post.
Oh my god, that's fucking brilliant! If you do that, that would actually make me so happy if that happened.
New uploads every day, guys. Stay tuned. All right, I got to peace out, guys.
Thanks for joining.
Good night.
I like these people. They're funny.
D, what do you think? What's the last thing you shot up at a free injection site?
They have injection sites there in the West Coast in British Columbia or Vancouver. I know that. They're a bit of a shit show. That's for sure. I'm not like a fan of them. They obviously become a hub for selling and dealing.
So do 12-step meetings.
I don't know.
casinos.
Honestly, with the way that the drugs that people now use, like the opioids, I don't know. I think they're stupid anyway, honestly. Take some damn acid, have some fun. Like, what the fuck is this shit that you guys are killing yourselves with?
I mean,
I
if
don't
you
know, I
don't
just-
know, I'm not saying that you're missing out. I'm just saying, like, I'm glad I experienced Opana.
Experience which?
Opana.
What is?
It was a. I think I don't know if Sasquatch would say like don't talk about Opana. It was I think it was the first or only medicine ever like where the DEA told them to stop making it, told a private company to stop making it, something like that. It was. Let me put it this way: we've all heard of Oxy.
Right.
This was like it's
was designer or what? No, Opana is designer Oxy. It's super
no, it's not.
Oxy. It's
They're different chemicals.
They are
It's
different
like,
chemicals. I'm saying the effect is like opium times 10, a million. It's weird.
So yeah, like when I tried them, I was doing Oxycontin, which is fairly strong. But I was no slouch, right? Like I had my tolerance. My dude said I got some Opanas. They're $50 a piece. He was really excited about it. I said, I don't know what that is. You're stupid. Just give me my normal stuff. And he's, bro, trust me. So I did trust him. I bought one pill. I used a razor blade. I cut it into eighths.
Mm-hmm.
And I could see why the DEA had an issue with this stuff.
Right. It results in a whole room. One of these things broken inappropriately results in a whole room of people laying on the floor, rolling around, going, "Oh."
Yeah. First person I shared it with, also no slouch. I had to call his girlfriend half an hour later to have her come pick him up because off the floor, right? He wasn't passed out. He was just rolling. He was kind of on his back and kind of like doing little rock rolls on my carpet, going, "It feels so good." And but he wasn't getting up, so she picked him up. The second guy I shared it with, I ended up buying them all after I tried it. I bought all the rest that he had. And the next guy, I shared some with him. He fell asleep in a neighbor's yard walking home and woke up because the sprinklers kicked on, like it was a Ferris Bueller movie or something.
This is the level of like, this is, don't do drugs, kids. Okay.
Oh, Tara, no.
I'm just saying.
Was it an Opana?
It just say, yeah, sure. Okay. I mean, like, it was whatever it was needed to be.
When I sort of got around a little bit of the early pill popping of Oxycontins, I had just moved to Northern Ontario.
I got no shame, baby. I'm not shaming you. I'll bring out the shade master if I need to shade somebody.
Yeah.
I
just feel sorry for you. Like
the girl who had my child and one guy that was working within a cable company was pretty heavy into oxys. I know the big dude, man. I guess he said he was an enforcer at some point. That's kind of what he did on the side. Like, he's a big boy, but he took like 6. I jumped in the truck the first day. He took like 6, popped them in his mouth and some Coca-Cola. He's like, yeah, if you chewed them, they kill you. It's like, holy shit, dude. What the fuck you doing? Just jumping on some pills.
Tara, you did it for a Bike 5? Come on.
No. Look, on the other end of dope sick, that's a small price to pay to end the dope sickness for a minute. Dude, it is a hell. It is a walking, living hell that can't be described by people who have not been full-blown addicted. I'm not talking about weekend warriors. I'm not talking about people who pop one when their tooth hurts. No, I'm talking about you wake up in the morning with 25 and you have to get on the hustle so that you get some before you run out.
Yeah, this dude was definitely like doing it to stay normal. Like, he was really bad addicted. But still, it would fuck him up. And both with him and that old ex-girlfriend, the psychological, like the lying effect of people that were dropping oxy was like pretty annoying. And the way it was like these delusional lies, and it's like, holy fuck, you're so gone, man. Like,
Yeah.
In how you perceive reality, or how you perceive other people perceive reality. Like, you're so full of shit. It's so fucked.
I think that and this is just my anecdotal experience. I think that anecdotally, it does for all substances. If you start shooting, things are different.
Yeah.
And like I said, I shot one time. I kind of get it, but like, yeah, I don't. It's nuts. But that actually is also a function, shooting it as an intake method. It's not because anybody loves needles. It's because of the prohibition, because it's a more efficient way to use a limited supply.
Yeah.
And I just saw Nick down there. I'm glad you're here, Nick. We're talking about lots of things earlier, but private prisons were one of them. Nick mentioned that he stayed in private for a little while, and that it was worse than non-private prisons. If you care to give some thoughts on that, the link is pinned. He got himself a silver tarantula or something that he's riding now, which is a cool occult thing, I suppose.
I think it's pretty obvious there's a connection to the amount of opioids that was coming into the country and the years post Afghanistan, right? They went into Afghanistan, opioid production went way up. A few years later, they're like, oh yeah, we got this new pill. It's safe.
Bro.
It was all set. It's all a setup, right?
You know what the Taliban did to those farmers when
they left?
He went out.
Knows, man.
Bro, no, we know exactly what they did. First of all, about half the Taliban's users anyway. I mean, some percentage, and enough of a percentage for them to go, Habib, where does the people come from? Johnny and Joey over here on the hillside. They've got that big purdy field. You can see them from helicopters. You can't hide them. It takes acres and acres and acres, right? And they're beautiful. So it's not like you're going to be able to hide it. So they just showed up, shot everybody in the house, burnt the field off, which I bet was one hell of a rush. Because like no turn unstoned is what I'm telling. And whoever the oldest son got ownership of the joint, and they started planting potatoes and crap, ostensibly. They don't play that shit.
But I think one of the immediately is also the fact of who they're dealing with, right? It's some international cabal, right? So yeah, they're in shit for that too.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that the whole regime over there is so pro control that the idea of there being something that they can't financially benefit from is a non-starter. And so everybody who was in the business got taken out of the business, and now new people are starting up their businesses within the Islamic State, so to speak. But they frown on that shit really hard in the first place. That's a desecration of the human temple. You know, that's not a thing. From high places.
What was it? The Taliban, between Taliban and what ISIS is, but there was a side by side with the Taliban. What's the other
CIA?
name? Yeah, close.
NSA,
very close.
ISIS. This one of them.
I don't necessarily think Taliban is horrible in a sense. I mean, obviously they're strict and religious nuts, but I think they're a little bit more of the religious rebels of the country. You know what I mean? I don't think they're like.
I don't have any knowledge that would let me make any sort of mental distinction in my opinion of them at all. Like, another Durka group.
They've been fighting a long time with everybody. You know, the Russians were trying to get in there, and I know old Russian guy told me a story when they were going in. They had these crazy, amazing snipers. The Taliban did that could hit from a mile or something, and they go around, they look for the guy with the bruise and kill him. Sorry.
That comment that Caucasian Sasquatch is just made in his own chat, that was me. Trying to have a conversation in my chat.
It's flooding mine. They know how this works. They know what's going on. Mm-hmm. It's your people that are confused, but I say let them be confused.
Well, it hit both of our chats.
Yeah, but other people are seeing you respond to folks in my chat, right? And not knowing who you're talking to, they're like, I don't see Jeremy. Where's Jeremy? Why is my chat broken?
Tara sounds like fun. Tara, you ever come out and party in Kansas City? Just kidding. Me neither.
When I first jumped on, I seen that. Is it Nechika, buddy? It's actually
No,
how I ended
Cheetah.
up finding. Yeah, I ended up finding your channel. But I mean, I kind of knew of him from years back because of Mandela Effect. But he's also a big part of this flat Earth thing, which is they're all squirming now. At the moment, it's
Dude,
kind of
did
hilarious.
you see the stream he did the other day?
No,
Where
not at
he
all.
was going over the quote unquote final experiment, right?
No, I didn't.
Going over. Homie was full of so much coke, it almost made me cringe. But I was so impressed by the level of coke. I sent the link to Flow State to see if it would be interesting.
And I didn't watch it. By the time that I clicked the link you sent, like the stream was over and it was 2 hours.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm not sifting through this to try to figure out what he's talking to.
He was having an absolute shit fit the whole way through. Well, you can't prove to me that they're actually in Antarctica. First of all, look, you can see people in the background. There wouldn't be any people in Antarctica. You can't see their breath blowing. They're in front of a green screen.
Okay, hold on. We've got a fantastic twist of coincidence. Tara lives. I said, you know, my joke. You're not in Kansas. She actually lives in Kansas City. How close are you to 38 years old? Maybe we have partied together. I never got it with you.
You never know.
Wouldn't that be funny? Anyways,
you got 2 years.
It's always funny to me when a friend of mine tells me they've met a chick and she's great, and I ask somebody I know and they're like, no, and then I show up and of course it's somebody that I know, and
you know,
I can't believe you're going to do that with that mouth.
Yeah, I'm at this point. I'm probably just going to tell people that I banged Tara Jackson anyways, whether or not we've met.
Might as well.
Mm-hmm. And it doesn't sound like she would know either.
She is 47, dude. She is 47.
I'm 37.
One of them older girls at the party that you might not have looked at.
I had a fake ID that worked at 15. I remember being 15 and hooking up with a chick that was 23. And I thought I was the shit. Now she didn't know what she had just done because I was a kid at an adult party. But
you had a fake ID. I think that should be an alleviating circumstance involving these situations. If a girl comes up to you and gives you an ID that tells you she's 18, unless it's extremely absurd.
Hold on, I glitched out for a second. You said fake ID, and then what?
Fake IDs. All right. The whole issue with the underage girl thing typically revolves around schools and people and counselors and stuff like that, right? Mm-hmm. But if an underage girl gets an ID, goes to a club and hooks up with a dude, should that dude go to jail for statutory rape when he checked her ID and she had one valid enough to get her through a door?
I mean, at some point, at some point, if a chick is trying to, there's only so much due diligence you can do.
Right. That's the only point I have.
I don't know how I would undo the legal unraveling that makes me uncomfortable, but there is definitely a point where it's like, well,
I'm not comfortable with it either, but it is a circumstance that has taken place to people that I'm aware of. And it's ridiculous that it could happen that way. That homie took a picture of her ID before he took her home. Right? His ass still went to the clean.
That's fucked.
It's so fucked up. Picked her up. Yeah. No, I mean, it's messed up. Yeah. She was like 17 or whatever. And the only way he managed to get everything resolved and get out, he's still on like lifetime probation or some crap like that. I don't know what they call it. But he's got to like check in for the rest of time. And but basically he had to volunteer to be on like the offender registry thing and then go through this like uber long-term probationary period. That
registry is for life, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, no, it is for life. But also if he moves anywhere, he has to notify folks when he goes. And that's kind of silly because like I said, he was 23, 24 and hooked up with a 17-year-old that he picked up at a strip club that was there trying to get a job. With a fake ID?
That's completely legal in Canada. 16 is the age of consent in Canada.
It's the age of consent in most states as well, but it's not the age of like prawn.
What's up, Toe Daddy? Toe for life in chat, yo. He don't got a whole lot of subscribers, but he knows people with a whole lot of subscribers.
Old Joe is. I don't know the context of this comment or if there is context, but Old Joe's afraid of you and I as well, Sasquatch.
Well, I'm
Probably
scared.
because he knows that we'd have sex with him if we ever met.
I'm terrified. I mean, I don't blame you.
It's definitely because we'd have sex with him.
I mean,
is that the
I would
powdered
make eye
part?
contact.
I think I get that now. I was
Hey,
wondering what
oh,
the,
yeah,
the
I
where you
have-
got your
I have
Sasquatch thing
notary
from.
stamps.
Notice the dusty, the powdered. I was like, oh yeah, that makes
Yep.
sense now.
Old Joe, I happen to have notary stamps, a variety of names as well, so this can be done.
2 times.
What do you think? Is the Sasquatch real?
I've seen something that resembled a Sasquatch or a hobo in a fur coat. What day is it? Wednesday. It was a hobo in a fur coat.
It doesn't sound too convincing.
Why he was in a fur coat in the middle of the swamp in the middle of August in a drought, I have no idea. But he was fairly well hung for a Sasquatch and not quite as tall as you'd think.
You seen
Fuck,
the pecker of a
look, look,
Sasquatch?
I've seen the pecker of some hairy dude. It may have been my cousin Earl. I can't
Was there-
swear that it was a Sasquatch because he
Was
wasn't
there
like
a lot of
tall.
fur at the genital
Yes. Yeah. His face looked like this.
area?
You're like, this is the weirdest wrestling team I've ever joined.
I talked to a guy who apparently him and his buddy went basically camping, hunting down Sasquatch, and he is convinced that they're actually sort of like either interdimensional or something, but they're not fully physical. They seen one disappear during dusk in front of their eyes.
What I'm hearing is that they don't exist.
They do mushrooms when they're camping. Listen,
Right.
what
That
I
shit
saw
gets weird when you're in the woods alone at night.
What I saw
They were
was a very coincidental thing. I couldn't have plotted up on that feller if I'd have tried. And I'm pretty sneaky up in the woods, but there's no chance. The only reason I wandered up on him was because it was an extreme drought and I was walking on like powdery white sand, making virtually no sound.
What's that a euphemism for?
Nothing. It's just that walking on sand is quieter than leaves. And so I was
dream.
normally quiet. And homie turns and looks at me, and I'm like, you probably shouldn't drink that water. And he stood up, walked away, and I realized he was naked and fuzzy.
Are you quiet? Do you move quietly?
Yes.
That's scary. People like who shouldn't be quiet, but just are quiet.
6'1", 200 pounds, but moves like a freaking
Right.
Never know I was there.
We should be able to hear your breathing from the next room, right?
My wife makes me carry my keychain with me when I'm in the house so that she can hear me coming down the hallway and stuff. Because I'm terrifying. I'm telling you, I'm terrifying. If you suddenly come around the corner in the dark hallway, it's like I'm standing there, like 2 to 5 seconds.
Katie does it to me too, but she's like 95 pounds, so she can't make noise unless she stamps her feet.
Yeah, she has to jump up and down.
The Sasquatch possible sighting, that's, if you don't mind me asking, that's like in the swamps of what state?
My ass.
Middle Georgia and his swamp ass.
That's a lot of swamp in Georgia.
Yes, well, locally.
My ass too.
I grew up on 228 acres of uncut timber, like primordial forest. And there's maybe a couple of hundred more acres of it around that plot. And the sighting took place on an adjacent plot of land, maybe 2 miles from my house. And an interesting side note to that, I didn't mention nothing about it for like years. But a couple of weeks after that, the guy who owned that property cut a bunch of trees across the road and sold it. He cut off all access to the property and sold it off.
What was it like growing up in a Goosebumps novel?
Lonely.
Except for the spirits that were your friends sometimes.
They're not spirits. There's voices in my head, and we're not permitted to talk about them.
That's just the auditory hallucinations. You know that you're not supposed to stay up past 3 days.
Right? And those mushrooms, maybe not the right ones.
And all these snakes that keep slithering off the road. I don't know.
Right? Yeah. Now, out there in the middle of nowhere, I always said I was Christopher Robin because I grew up in the 100-acre woods. And when I started getting old enough for like friends to come spend the night, they would spend the night once and not come back because that place was freaking creepy. It was really creepy. Walk out of my backyard. It looks like you can see for miles, but you really can't see but a couple of 100 feet because the freaking oak trees are as big around as the room I'm in. Primordial forest, bro. Beech nut trees out there, big as skyscrapers. It was absolutely amazing. There's one sycamore that was out there that was 14 foot across. After they cut it down, I went and counted it off on the with a tape measure because I knew it was ungodly ginormous.
Yeah, I grew up in a middle class neighborhood, so. But we had big storm drains underneath the main road. You could get in the storm drain and shoot BBs at the wheels of the cars going by. That was dope.
We cut down trees on Crown land when we were teenagers and built a log cabin. Get drunk in.
That's cool.
Fuck the queen.
We would steal beer from the grocery store at night because it was open 24 hours, and one of us would distract the only employee while the other one would do a dash out with the front door with the cases.
I had a buddy of mine who, at a very young age, realized that certain managers got to order things. And so he specifically got a job at a grocery store so he could order extra cases of whippets to steal. And there's nothing more depressing than finding a guy parked at a stop sign in the middle of town, dosed out on whippets with like 100 cans of the floorboard.
That really is like as somebody who smoked out of light bulbs and stuff in hotel rooms with toothless hookers, like that's a bummer, the whippet thing.
It's hard to justify like telling somebody, dude, you got to stop, let me out. Why? Because I know that guy. What are you going to do? I'm going to drive his ass home. I get out of the truck, walk across, homie's over there. Open up the door, like, get over. And he can't get over in the passenger seat because you have to throw some whippet cans in the back seat to make room for him.
Dude, I don't even get, like, I did a whippet once. It was not fun. I had a headache the rest of the night. I have no idea what the fuck these people are doing this shit for.
I ain't never understood it. I mean,
whip it, the fucking cans.
Galaxy gas. That's what they're calling it now.
You got to question how many brain cells you're losing.
It's the least fun way you can fuck your body up the most. Like it's like hey, you know what I want to do? I want to go punch trees as hard as I can. Let's do that.
Right? Let's do some adrenaline junkie shit. I want to do some stuff I'll remember tomorrow.
Although, I remember there's a phase, well, I guess it was high school, like all of us. I had a lot of friends who would get drunk and then like put cigarettes out on themselves. Like motherfuckers would have their whole bicep just like scabbed over with burns on top of burns. I never participated. Not once did I ever decide, what sounds like fun is putting a cigarette out on my own arm. But I certainly encourage their choice to do that if they wanted to.
So, I worked with a guy who had this weird trust thing, and this was not one of those legal jobs that you generally talk about, right? This was a distinctly illegal occupation, but he had a weird trust thing that he did where he called it a trust exercise, but really what it involved was like who was more tolerant to his bullshit, right? And so every couple of weeks,
I have played some of these games myself in the past. I'm familiar.
He would invite some people in, and whoever he invited in would have to do one of these weird trust exercises. I only involved with one, and it involved Lonnie, the guy I've told you about, the psychopath that I was.
God, that sounds like not fun. Trust exercise partner.
It went horribly wrong because I cheated. My left arm has nerve damage. I can barely feel the damn thing, right? Lonnie missed it. So when homie lit the cigarette, I said, put your arms together and then drop the cigarette in between us. I don't know how he did it, but I cheated. We stood right there until that cigarette burned out. And the messed up thing is it only gave me a little scar right there. The whole thing healed up almost completely except for that little bump right there.
Why the fuck would anybody put up? Like, what was the leverage this guy had that would make anybody want to participate?
Extra $250 a week.
If you held a cigarette, but like, I'm sure that the trust exercise has escalated.
Typically it would only last for a few seconds. One or the other person pulls away and that person gets the raise. In this case, we both got the raise. Like, he was utterly astounded. That was the first time he'd ever seen it go the full length. And the fact that we just stood there and stared each other down with shit-eating grins on our face actually kind of upset him a little bit. But we were neighbors. Like, I knew he wasn't going to pull away, and damned if I'm going to fail at this one. I'm going to cheat.
Right. You should. Cheating is it gets wrongfully disparaged many times.
Well, all right. So if there's a way to cheat without actually breaking the rules, then that's not cheating. It's just, clever. People don't like clever.
If you're being forced to play a dumbass game like this to get a raise, or else you're punished for not playing it, then that is a game that should be cheated at, if possible.
I'm also not a fan of zero-sum games. So if you're playing a game where there is no winner ever under any circumstance, like the thought experiment we were talking about earlier, somebody's going to die, everybody loses regardless of what you do, then don't play. That is the only win in a zero-sum game.
Yeah, but like that is only true if you operate under the delusion that inaction is not action. The choice
I understand.
Yeah,
I get the conundrum. I get the exercise. I understand the purpose of it and what the different arguments are for doing and not doing anything being a choice. I get all that. What I'm saying is, if you put me in a position of a zero-sum game where no one wins and there is no way to win, I will simply not play. I will break the system by not participating in the system.
Yeah, but that's why me and Jigsaw have to fucking get creative to make you play our games.
Good luck.
Yeah, and for everybody who's like, what the fuck is he talking about? The game he's talking about is the little thought experiment where there's trains coming in. It's going to hit 4 people on a track unless you throw the lever and divert it. Then it only kills 1 person, but you're responsible for the shift. Now, would you do that or not?
Well,
I hate that question though, because I think it's calculated backwards, right? The way it's assessed is if you would kill 1 person proactively to save 4 people who otherwise would die passively, then that is the psychopathic decision because you took an action treating a human as a means to an end, right? But I think that's just that's a psychopathic valuation of what is saving for the end is saving for humans. The end is not killing the one.
Right. No, I get that. And I understand that it's not a very good example of psychology. In fact, it might be used as an example of bad psychology. You don't learn as much as you think. First of all, in a real world situation, the person that was dropped blindly into this circumstance would hold no guilt in a court of law for doing nothing and would probably get off on technicalities if he pulled the trigger. So
do you have trouble with hypotheticals, Sasquatch? If you didn't have breakfast this morning, how would you feel?
Yeah, I would probably be a little hungrier than I am now.
Okay, but all right. So you're not tempted to say, but I did have breakfast.
Right. No.
Okay. This is a thought experiment.
Well, first of all, I did have breakfast, so I know exactly how I'd feel.
So the setup is you got to kill 1 person in order to save 4.
Yeah,
that's an option. The circumstance.
Yeah,
I would say I would never do it unless you're the one that is causing the death of the 3 people in the first place.
That's the point. That's exactly the point that I bring up. The person that set this scene up and dropped you in the place is the one that's guilty of all nefarious action. Yeah. It is not your responsibility to save anybody.
It's not your obligation, but your inaction. if you just stand back and film while 4 people die and then put it on your TikTok, guess what? You could have saved 3, but you're lazy and you're selfish.
First of all, I end up in a position where there's a switch and 2 train tracks, and I'm assuming this is a Joe Rogan episode of Fear Factor or something like that. They're going to talk about
this is your amnesia. This is your amnesia happening. You don't know why.
Oh, fuck.
You wandered off again.
Oh no.
You're just there. I broke it.
No.
Yeah,
No.
have you seen Momentum or Memento?
Oh my God.
Yeah, you're Guy Pearce. Now you can check out your own tattoos for a minute, but you got to make a decision.
Oh my God. That's a good movie. That's a really good movie. He did a really good job in that film.
Yeah.
But no, I get what you're saying. But still, I didn't tie those people up. I haven't kidnapped anyone. I didn't set up. I don't even know for a fact that switch will actually change the train tracks. All I know is I'm standing here, there are people tied up, and I should probably get out of here and get this some help.
You've been hanging out with iFi or something? Like, you're just being insufferable right now with this.
No, sir. Not at all. I'm just saying, in a real world circumstance,
there are not extra variables that you can just drag in this. I know that it's just a thought experiment. It's an unlikely reality. There is more pieces that seem like they should be there. You have to operate without them, or else you die from getting fucked in the ass too much.
All right, now don't threaten me with a good time. I am a power bottom. Mess with me. Listen, all I'm saying is it's a terrible thought experiment. No one ever learned a damn thing from either answering it or not answering it. It's ridiculous and silly. It's a terrible thought experiment. It's ridiculous and silly. And I only bring it up whenever I want to put somebody in a nasty situation that they can't dig themselves out of.
Actually, I think that it's telling, and I may be extracting the wrong information from it, but what it tells me is about somebody's orientation towards the world and whether they're risk prone or risk averse. The risk averse person doesn't want to. Yeah, I'm risk prone.
Right. Now, okay, let's change the circumstances. And I happen to be walking down a subway for some god awful reason. I ran away from the killer or whatever, and I find this circumstance and there's a switch. In that case, I might need some help. So we're going to save the 5 people. But there's a reason it's not an experimental thing.
There is no scenario in which everyone dies. You know what? Fuck it. The story happened. Everybody died. You killed everybody because you can't fucking think conceptually. The real way to save people's lives was to answer the fucking question. But since you didn't do that, we've killed them all. They've all been executed.
I count it as a win because I win the zero-sum game.
And now you're next.
Gotta catch me first. Okay, no, I get it. I dig it. I do. I really do. I buy it. I totally do. I just think it's a terrible thought experiment. Like I said,
it is a bad one. It doesn't at all assess what it claims to assess. It like the worst part. I think it's an interesting paradigm. It's a terrible scorecard or however the information that is supposed to be derived from it is asinine.
And also largely projected by the person doing the interpretation, because they come up with their own reasoning for why you would pull or not pull the switch.
You know what? That's really interesting. You say that when I and most people know I had a court-ordered psych evaluation, came back with ADHD, the only thing. So I'm sane besides that officially. But I asked my counselor at rehab about it because I got a good rehab counselor the second time I went. He was an OG, smart ass dude. I really have a lot of respect for him. And but I told him I have an upcoming psych evaluation, and the I'm being accused of being a psychopath. Obviously, if a court finds me diagnoses me with psychopathy, that has no upshot, only downshot. And I wanted his thoughts on it. And he said the exact same thing. He said, these sort of tests tell you more about the person giving them than the person that they're assessing.
Something like 89% of psychologists and psychoanalysts have to go to psychologists and psychoanalysts themselves because of the shit they hear from people just bitching all the time.
They get into that line of work in the first place because they're trying to figure out what's wrong with them. Psychiatrists have the same suicide rate as schizophrenics. That's astronomical.
I wonder, you got to be fucking delusional to try to be figuring out how thought is and putting it into some sort of labels and boxes.
No, I mean, I do it all the time personally about other people. I just don't tell y'all what I'm assessing about you. But
yeah,
the
labeling they do in the industry is like ADHD. What is that? Checklist. That's all it is, right?
It's an outcropping of the insurance industry, really. But it's pseudoscience as fuck, the DSM.
Right. There is likely commonality.
Have you ever heard of hyperkinetic disorder?
No.
All
right. So hyperkinetic disorder, it looks fun for a time. So I'm sure everyone knew that guy in high school who was always twitchy, fidgety, swore he didn't do drugs, and was just always completely above the rest of the people as far as what he was doing. I don't know.
I remember Mikey Stone.
Hyperkinetic people often have problems sleeping. Sometimes there's various reasons they give for why, but largely it's an adrenal response that is firing inappropriately. Basically, these people are waking up in what you would call an anxiety attack, but somehow they rationalize it away and it doesn't become anxiety. Instead, it becomes, I've got to wash the dishes. Right? So this guy I went to school with, I'd go spend the weekend with him and I wouldn't see him sleep 3 days straight. And he was not doing any kind of stimulants. He wasn't on any kind of drugs. And I thought he should be. I strongly suggested that he go to a psychologist and get him some stuff to help him sleep, because I can't do 4 days straight, bro. Not raw dogging. I mean, I can do 2. I can do 48 hours.
Raw dogging that shit?
He was raw dogging 4-day weekends.
No, that's a problem.
I hear you. I know what you're thinking, that he was sneaking some stuff or whatever. No, dude was.
No, I believe you. There are people. Yeah, no, I recognize that people like that exist. Insomnia is real.
Yeah, insomnia is real, and some people respond to it in very strange ways. One of which is to become like a constant manic individual. Other than the fact that they don't sleep and they're extremely annoying and they talk too much and they know too much, there's really nothing wrong with them. They're just really hard to deal with.
Gonna grab a coffee.
My God, what a great idea.
I mean, to this comment, Hank actually might not be autistic. If I found out that he wasn't autistic, that would not. He's able to read people's social cues better than most people on here. He doesn't always respond to them well. He gets distracted by the desire to remind people that whatever we're talking about, he's the best at all at it, right? That's annoying sometimes. And after 3 a.m., he gets squirrely as fuck. But Hank understands how somebody ticks and how they'll respond way better than Tommy. The issue with autism as a diagnosis is that it includes everything as a symptom.
Right. And a lot of them want to try to obliviate it and say something about Asperger's and be like, well, it's a spectrum. And once you make it a spectrum, you can take anything from any list anywhere and include it as part of the job. And it is a hell of a racket. Think about it. You got these people who are forced by a judge to go talk to you, and they have to pay you to come talk to you when they're forced to come do
it. Right.
And as an observation, if you ever end up in a situation where you have to go have a court-ordered psychological exam, do not open by saying, so the court makes people pay you to do this, and he says yes, and say, what a racket. Just skip that whole conversation. I was lucky this guy giggled maniacally and was like, yeah, well, I mean, I'd rather just help people. And I was like, yeah, but the money's good though, right? I'm going to give you some money. Can you just shut up and take my money? And we sat there for the first time for 15 minutes in dead silence.
I was really happy I got the psych evaluator I did. He was pretty dope. Older dudes in any profession are normally the chillest ones.
Well, it's kind of the same thing with pilots. There are old pilots and bold pilots. There are no old bold pilots. There are no old wound up neurotic psychologists. They've already weeded themselves out.
He was a little unsure about me at first. He'd be like right at the very beginning. He goes, "You're not going to hurt me, are you?" Like, no, but if I was, I'd probably tell you no anyways. What kind of question is that?
This guy was like 5'3", and I was really worried that I was going to like as soon as I set eyes on him, I was like, oh my God, we got one of them short kings. He's going to hate me. And what happened is the second visit I went, somebody showed up with his dog for some reason, and the dog came over and jumped up in my lap and just curled up, and I rubbed the dog's head until he got done talking to dude, and then they called him to run out. But he stood there watching that dog with me for the whole time. But
I hate how dog people have this weird fucking superstition like about their dog. Like my dog can automatically perfectly tell the character of anybody. Yeah, I know that you think your dog can do that shit too. It can't. It just likes you a lot.
My dog's a moron and blind. He's so dumb. Let me tell you how dumb my dog is. The first time he saw a goose, it was flying, and he jumped up in the air and tried to bite it. Not once, but 3 times before he got to the point that that's not a thing, that dogs don't fly. He jumped straight up in the air, and I was like, oh, that's weird. And when he hit the ground and he turned around, he looked up, and another flight of geese came over. He barked once and jumped higher, and I went, oh, this is going to be bad.
That dog is stupid.
It's dumb. This dog, listen, this is one good thing, and it's also kind of a bad thing. If you take him out for a walk and you don't tell him to poop, he won't.
That is...
So if you get
distracted, that would be a fun behavior to like train into a human.
You're evil.
You haven't called me in 3 days. What the fuck?
Shut up and poop. Call me back after.
This is why people got to be careful doing those sleep streams, especially if you got like Resto did a sleep stream where he slept, and his super chats get read on this thing. I spent $2 to tell him he's the reason his parents got divorced, and then I left before I spent all of my money fucking up on my friend's subconscious.
Dude, if you like being at the $1 slots, you just can't quit. Your father hates you. Your mother thinks you're a disappointment. Your sister hates you.
Like, what kind of a friend sets up his friend with temptation like that? Come on now.
Right. Now, if you didn't want it to happen, you wouldn't have given me that opportunity.
Where is everybody tonight? Numbers have been low as shit tonight.
You got an extra channel up too. I don't know.
I know.
Yeah, this is kind of weird.
Is there? Apparently, we need more drama. Fuck you, D.
You suck, D.
Yeah,
Dear God, why do you have such a small penis? You can't even satisfy me or your wife.
It's more like, why don't I make better use of the huge penis I have? Is the truth of the matter.
I'm sorry to hear about your inefficient management of your personal resources, but congratulations on having a big dick.
How do you come up with this shit?
That's great. That should be a clip.
Yeah, it should. I should write that down. On the note that I make, I hope that this check goes through the remote deposit I just did, because I've been using it as a notepad since. Where'd my pin go? How far am I? 2 hours and 30
in your own little ways.
Yeah, I'm very clever, but not for anything but sort of like not malicious, but like obnoxious intent. My intent is obnoxious.
That's cool.
I enjoy it.
I noticed you in general, like you do for a station that has boot off money and stuff like that. You do manage it pretty well. Very.
Thank you. You probably thinking that because I don't do it very much. As like for example tonight, I haven't even done not one sales pitch. I've totally failed as in my businessman capacity with tonight's stream, but that's okay. At this point, I feel like just me complaining about it and pointing it out should be a subtle enough hint for some of you to know what to do.
To boot me off, or I'm not going to stop talking. Speaking of which, I'll give you a good reason.
They'll listen to me forever.
You want to know how to make magic French toast? I say that because a couple weeks ago I was like, "Fuck, I would make some do something with these eggs." Right? I had to do so. I was like, "Fuck, I got a ton of bread too."
All the best.
I made French toast. I had no fucking French vanilla. I'm like, "Fuck, what am I gonna do?" And I used French vanilla ice cream. Holy fucking magic, dude! If you have kids to entertain, my god, that shit's like candy.
So what happened?
I put French vanilla ice cream in my French toast mix.
You like in the actually that sounds really fucking good.
It's fucking magic, dude. I couldn't believe it. It's the most luckiest thing I ever cooked in a, making sure.
I accidentally cooked a fried barbecue pork chop one time. And it was because I was cooking on a stove where all the spices were on this rack that barely had enough room for it to actually be there. And I put something up there and the barbecue fell off on the pork chop in the pan. And I was like, shit. Oh, well, screw it. I'll eat that one. And then I lost it in the pile of pork chops. And my roommate ended up getting that one. And I'd finished cleaning it up and had gotten my plate and went back to my bedroom and sat down. And he just kicks the door in with that pork chop in his hand going, "What is this?" It's a pork chop, brother. He's like, "No, this tastes like a barbecue pork chop, but it is fried. How is that possible? It's not burnt. You didn't mess it up. How did you do this?" And he immediately, no bullshit, he immediately went and bought another pack of pork chops so we could try to reproduce that one pork chop that had been done. It took a while, but I figured it out.
Is Miss Jackson referring to me being ordinary? I probably sound ordinary. I assure you I'm pretty fucking weird compared to most of the world. Oh,
I mean, Target Patton, I wouldn't go that far. Like I do it when I put someone in place. Like I do it for the whole gamut of reasons. Some people I actually don't like and wish harm on. Some people, most people, I just actually I very rarely actually like have contempt for people. More out of indifference than.
You're not being angry with people.
Right.
Too. If somebody pays you to put someone backstage, they go backstage. They pay to kick them off for the night. They get kicked off for the night, but they're back the next day. And like I said, you're not aiming at.
Oh yeah, not with the kickoff thing, the buy down draw. Like there's no malice in that. I could say though that like I do operate maliciously sometimes. It's rarely like the shorts like where I make fun of Easy is a good example. I knew that he would not enjoy them. I still know he does not enjoy them. I enjoy that about them.
It's an interesting function, like a way to make some money. And the fact that you do it without being malicious is what makes it palatable, honestly, for me.
Yeah.
If you were laughing and taking sides all the time, it just would be too much. It'd be like, sick.
Yeah, no, I mean, and that would take the fun out of the game, right? I wouldn't like if it's too slant. Why am I gonna, go to a panel and participate where I know that it's gonna be treated unfairly? That just sucks all the fun out of it and makes me a douche.
You're just as likely to make fun of a person for having to hate on somebody else, actually, for giving you money.
But yeah, no, it is absolutely not intended. There's no part of the money structure I have that is intended maliciously or should be taken maliciously. What it is that there's literally no way for me to spend this much time doing this shit unless people support financially. And so I try to figure out ways to do it, which is good for everybody involved. And it turns out that people enjoy spending money to attack others or to support others, right? Those are the two paradigms. Either defend your homie or take a shot at your enemy. but those are the social dynamics that people are eager to spend money into.
Right.
Cynthia, are you having new fights with everybody now?
Yes. Now old Joe is officially on my suspicious list. He's not old. So why does he use the name Old Joe? That's kind of deceiving, right?
I mean, old Joe will. I'm sure he's out on his way up. So let's just get.
And then there's the next one. What was the next one? Oh shit. Oh, he always does that debate. Hey, hang on. He always does that debate technique where it's like, oh, hang on, I'm about to go. I'll be right there. Hang on, I gotta go. So let me just go real quick. That's the classic technique that I've seen everybody doing. Oh, and he's Canadian. Enough said.
I mean that's
And then I would like to like you more. That it's okay, sweetie. Nobody really does. And then I'm suspicious on some of the things he says to me. So I'm officially gonna put him on my keep a side eye on him.
Did Dr. D did I actually say this?
Is this rant?
No, I don't think so. No. I can get, if I get fed up with somebody, I can be pretty, I say mean words sometimes, but
who said that he was rant? Are we sure he's not rant?
Yeah, Dr. D not rant.
Okay. Oh, hey, old Joe, did you hear what I said?
Oh, I heard every word you said.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Just wanted to make sure we were
none of it deserve it.
Huh?
I don't think any of it is deserve it. I don't think I deserve that commentary. Do you?
I'm going to preemptively
you're not really old.
issues.
You're not old, and you call yourself old Joel. That's
well. What do you consider old, though? I mean,
anybody above 65. And then the standard. Oh, I'm about to go real quick, so let me take over. That's that debate tactic that I've been seeing a lot of people use.
But then I always do go, right? If I say I'm going to go, then I head out.
Yeah. And about 40, 45 minutes later.
No, come on now. That's not true. Am I your new target, Cynthia?
No, I was just making observations of that comment you said the other day when you were like, oh, hey, Cynthia, how come you're not saying nothing you usually do? And I thought that was an odd comment he said to me. I wonder why he said that. And then Easy laughed at it. And I said, oh, I see what's happening now. Okay, keep an eye out on Ojo.
I have a theory. I have a theory as to why you're paying me more attention now than you used to. I believe you are secretly flattered to have made my list.
No, I really didn't agree with that list as far as
you can hear it in your voice.
No, as far as being crazy, but I was like, yeah, he probably doesn't know a lot of people, and I am there a lot, so obviously, but I wasn't. I mean, to be called